I'd like to call this meeting to order, the Roscommon County Board of Commissioners work session for April 24th, 2024. First, we have our treasurer, Rebecca Reagan. Mister?
Jody, do you need?
Thank you. Michelle.
Michelle needs one?
Oh, this is different than this. Okay.
Website
All
for
right.
the public to look at later?
I do not think that Rebecca has.
No,
Will it be? Will it be?
it can be, but there's nothing in here that's
I know
not.
that Tim's always really interested in. That's why I was-
Okay. Yeah, I can put it. I can have someone put it online.
Okay.
All right, the large paper that I gave you, this is settlement for this year. And settlement for the public is when the townships turn over their delinquent taxes to me, and I have to pay them off and make them whole for their taxes that they didn't collect. Okay, and that's what the tax payment fund is for. It's for paying off the townships. And this year was the highest that I've ever had to pay off. And it was $3,962,748.34. And if you look at the very bottom, you see it by township and how much I paid off each township broken down by summer and winter. And then at the top, you'll see the summer, and the summer has 6% interest on it, and not the winter, just the summer. So you'll see that Set and County Op got their 6%, and any DDA monies that weren't collected got their 6%. The schools that are collected in the summer got their 6%. Schools that are collected in the winter do not get it. Do you have any questions on that?
Yes, I do. Since so much higher than you said, what do you attribute?
Economy?
Not living in a great, fantastic economy?
No, we're not.
Okay, I just was wondering.
No, we're not. The economy is not doing well, and people don't have money to pay their taxes. So it comes over delinquent. Some people forget, Eric, quite honestly. Some elderly people, and then when we send out our first notice, they're like, oh my word, I forgot to pay. So, but for the most part, I would say the economy. But I will also say that this number is going to go up, because if we add SAD districts, anytime millages go up or you add, this amount is going to go up. And that's why I've been so careful in keeping a proper amount in the tax payment fund, because we do not want to bond. If we have to bond to pay these taxes off, which by law we have to do it, it's going to cost these people that have the delinquent taxes more money, because the law says that I'm supposed to charge that amount back to those people. So our county has looked ahead and said, we're going to develop this tax payment fund so that the delinquent taxes that are owing people won't have to have more fees added to it.
Okay, you're saying a lot of it, you're worried about the future with the SADs that are coming in, and that's just for the lakes, correct?
Yeah.
And those are mostly lakefront owners and just those, I mean, a minority amount of properties really in the county.
Mhm.
Do you really think it's gonna have that big of an impact? Because I don't foresee
know,
it have.
Eric, and because I don't know, you're asking me to know the future, and I don't know
Well,
the
but
future.
you made the statement that you.
Yeah, I'm foreseeing more money. Absolutely. And
Being
there's townships.
foreclosures, and so the people on the lakefronts are gonna have
I
a
won't
harder
say
time paying their
foreclosures.
taxes?
I won't say foreclosures, but I will say
Tax delinquencies.
yes.
Okay.
Yep. There may be people that say, I'm not going to pay that. I'm going to pay all my taxes but that, because I disagree with
Well,
it.
that always works out well.
Yes. So there's also townships that may be adding millages to their townships, which will then increase this number.
Doesn't that have to be voted on, adding millages?
Not if it's a special assessment at the township. They can have a special assessment meeting and have a hearing.
Right, that, but I'm just on, you're saying they're gonna be adding other assessments.
Yes, that has to be voted on, or if, like I said, if it's a special assessment,
Then there's no vote, but
right, but
What
it's
other-
still on the tax bill. If it's a special assessment or not, it's still there.
what other assessments or increased millages would be added on without a vote?
Special assessments would be
Right,
the
I'm-
only one.
the only one.
Lights,
Right, but you said that, I'm not trying to give you a hard time,
No,
Rebecca.
no, I
I'm just
understand.
asking because I'm sure everybody has the same question. If they're gonna be adding on additional millages, as you said, other townships could for their individual needs, don't those have to be voted on?
yes.
That was my question.
Anything other than special assessment. have to
Yeah,
be
I
voted on.
understand. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
I have a simple question. This total 3 million or whatever, is that the third year delinquent or is that reflective of all 3 years?
This is only 2023 delinquent taxes. That's it. This is the payoff for 2023. There are other taxes. If you look at my report, which we can do that later on. If you look at my report, you will see starting at, I think it's like 539 in the general ledger. 529. You will see that from 529 down to 541 and then going to 699, those are the other tax years that are delinquent. This large one is just 2023. And if you look at 8,
So in most cases,
841.
this number has been per parcel
Oh, yes, this is
is
per
bigger.
parcel. And that's why you can look on the very bottom and you see Asabo Township. They had delinquent 11,737.06 in summer, and then 33,247.08 in winter. That's what they didn't collect, and that's what by law I have to pay off.
Because you already paid the 2 years prior to that.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Assuming they were delinquent 2 years prior to that too. Because these
No.
are not necessarily just ones up for foreclosure, correct?
No, this has nothing to do with
Okay.
foreclosure. This is just 2023 taxes. That's it. Every March, at the end of March, or excuse me, at the beginning of March, the townships turn all their delinquent taxes over to me. Then I have to settle with them, make sure my numbers match their numbers, and that's where these numbers come from. And then I have to pay them off for their delinquent, the current year, which would be 2023 taxes.
So,
In
so
March.
in theory, it may be 3 years before we recoup this.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
And if you look at part of my report, you can see what has been collected and what is still left, because it'll be in a negative on the general ledger report, and that's how much still I'm waiting to collect. Okay.
Rebecca, I've got a question. Just to look at this report, that, like you said, you can post it online so the public will understand. You could say about what these numbers mean, so the public will understand that, hey, we haven't collected $3,900,000 in taxes. They're delinquent this year already. And the past, so people can understand the position that we're in
I
as
can
far
do
as
that.
tax collections. I know you do a great job, and I really,
you.
and I appreciate you answering my obnoxious questions, but I just needed some understanding.
No problem.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And if you have any more, my door's always open.
Thank you. I know
Welcome.
you do a great job. Thanks.
Any other questions on this? Okay, and let's move on to my quarterly report. This is the first of the year. And anybody have any questions on that? Thank you.
And your girls.
Great staff.
Yes, you do.
Speaking of that, we just signed, I should say renewed our 5-year contract with the state to be the PRE auditor for the county.
Makes us money.
Yes, it does.
What are the recurrent rates that are going on right now, Rebecca?
4.555.
Okay. It's, what term?
Pardon?
What term?
It's liquid right now.
Oh, okay,
Mhm.
okay. You haven't done any long-term CDs, huh?
I have, if you look at my report, I have
I
two.
see, that's what I see them down there, that's what I was wondering.
The one that's private bank, that's the DEQ cleanup for, and that one is continual and it just stays in there. And then the interest comes to us monthly. And the other one was Huntington.
What rate are we getting on that?
Not very much because they're old CDs and we're taking out.
They are CD, okay.
2 point something.
Okay, those have probably been out, what were they, like 5-year term, 2 years? Okay, 5-year term, okay. We logged into those when they were, rates were low.
Yes. And right now, short-term CDs are giving more than long-term because they don't know the way the economy's going to go. And they're not giving anything higher than what I'm getting through Michigan Class, which is a pool of money, and it goes into treasury notes and commercial paper, everything that's safe. It's AAA, so
What is that? What kind of rate is that then?
4.55.
I'm sorry, okay, okay. How about the Huntington Bank? It's a pretty small amount, but I'm just curious.
Yes, that is actually perpetual care, and that's one that we also have to have legally for the landfill.
Right, I was just wondering what kind of rate.
2 point something.
Yeah, same
Very
thing,
low.
okay.
Yep.
Thank you again.
You're welcome. No problem. I'm glad that you're curious. Any others?
Thank you.
You're welcome. And again, my door is always open if you have any questions.
Next, we have National Safe Boating Week Resolution. James Munger. Commander.
Morning, Commissioners. My name is James Monger. I'm currently the commander for the 9th Central District of the United States Coast Guard Auxiliary. I'm also the immediate past flotilla commander for the Roscommon flotilla. I want to first thank the Commission for not only this year for your support for the National Safe Boating Week, but your past support of that. It's very important. Thousands and thousands of folks come to our communities every year to enjoy our lakes, whether they're fishing, paddling, boating, whatever it might be. And the purpose of National Boating Safety Week is to ensure that those activities are done safely and responsibly. Doing a little checking yesterday, over 100 people drowned in Michigan every year. And most of those are the result of human error. And one of the things that comes forward is that if the simple act of wearing a life jacket would prevent about 83% of those. And I like to point out that that's not only during the summer on boating, but that's also in the wintertime, ice fishing. If you follow our Facebook page, you know I've had a tendency to kind of get on a soapbox about that, about when you're out to wear some kind of floating gear when you're out on the ice at any time. So it's our purpose, to improve boater safety through that with safety checks, wearing life jackets, and just boating safety. Just as a little background, because people often ask, what is the Coast Guard Auxiliary? And it actually was founded back in 1939 as a support mechanism for the active duty forces. Our mission is by law and by order of our commandant of that public boating safety. We are often described as a force multiplier. And currently there are about 42,000 active duty coasties, about 7,000 reservists, and 21,000 auxiliarists across the United States. So the sheer numbers show you how much the auxiliary supports the Coast Guard. And we do essentially everything that the active duty forces engage in, except for their law enforcement activities, as well as the military role that the Coast Guard has had since their inception. Roscommon flotilla itself goes back to 1998, and it's part, as I said, of the Central Division. We've got flotillas not only here in Roscommon, but one in Marquette, Alpena, Charlevoix, Sheboygan, as well as Traverse City. So as I said, we are the force multiplier. We provide all kinds of support services for the active duty folks, either directly or just with the auxiliary, air and surface operations, vessel inspections. We do radio operations, culinary services. We verify navigational aids. And one of the other things I always like to point out is the fact that we also have a very active chaplain corps that supports our active duty folks, not only in the Coast Guard, but across all of the military branches. While the Roscommon flotilla is relatively small in numbers, just last year, in 2023, the members of our flotilla put in about 3,300 hours on missions, whether those were vessel inspections or on public affairs or public education activities. Last year, we did 150 vessel inspections. One of the things that we have started in the last couple of years that's never existed before is, at least during peak periods, and particularly during the summer, we have facilities to monitor marine radio so that if anybody's got an issue, we can answer that immediately and get that call transferred to whoever would be appropriate. That's something that's never existed before. We also do a lot of public affairs events. If you might have seen us around, obviously we're in the Memorial Day Parade. We do the Michigan Festival, Firefighters Memorial Festival, National Night Out. We also help with the El Sable Canoe Race every year. We do the inspections on all of the canoes prior to the race and then safety check them when they come back in. You might have noticed at any of the DNR launches, some signs at the launches themselves to remind folks to wear their life jacket. It says wear it. We put those up last year. Hopefully we'll get some more and put them up again at some more places this year, beyond just the public docks. We're planning right now on hopefully having 2 boater safety classes this summer. We're waiting on results of a grant application with the community fund, hopefully to fund those, so which means we can do them at no cost. We're also, with the vessel inspections, you normally ask, like last year we did 150. If things go as they seem, that number will probably double or triple. We have been in discussions with the one private marina, Camp Cornelia, as well as Garrish Township, asked us to do some inspections on the boats at their docks. So that could involve several hundred boats if we go through with that. And then one of the biggest things that we do, all that with public affairs, I'm sure several of you noticed, we have, I think, a pretty active Facebook page. Last time I checked, we've got over 1,000 followers, which I think is pretty good for our size. And we post various fire, boating and water safety information. We do track lake conditions also because we found that was community interest. We also need to know that ourselves for patrols. And some of those posts are seen 3,000 and 4,000 times. So I think we're getting our message across. So the National Boating Safety Week all fits this together to improve boating safety, not only across the country, but particularly in Michigan and our community. So Roscommon Flotilla and the 9th Central District, I thank you again for your support. And if you have any questions. Yes, sir.
Yeah, you mentioned that there's over 100 drownings in Michigan.
Yes,
last
sir.
year. Were we unfortunate enough to have any here in Roscommon County?
The only, Commissioner, the only ones I can think of in this area, I think were during ice fishing season. A couple of people fell through the ice. I don't know that we've had anybody in the
What lake
summer.
was that on?
That one I believe might have actually been in Crawford County. One I can think of.
Over the years. we
Yeah.
have had-
Oh, yeah, over the years. I just meant this last
Yeah,
year.
last year, I don't remember one last year.
Good.
The only last drowning I think that I can remember on our area lakes was one that was probably intentional. A young lady that walked off. I think, well, 2 winters ago or something like that. That's the only one I can think of. We've been lucky. I mean,
Well, walked off, you mean she,
I think she took her own life.
right, but I mean, she,
She
it was
drowned.
during the winter? And-
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah.
What lake was that on?
It was on Houghton Lake. It was in the East Bay, if I remember.
Yes.
Our best to Chuck and Agnes. I know that you do this for volunteer, there's no pay, and I know you do.
Thank you. Yes, that is the Coast Guard Auxiliary is, as I describe it, is the volunteer force. We are unpaid.
I think it's
So
important
we
for
donate
people
our
to know that.
Pardon?
I think it's important for people to know that you do it for love of country.
Yes, we do. That's
Thank
it.
you. And that's a big deal. Thank you.
Yes. It's one of the other things that I do, not only for our own flotilla, but for the district division and actually national headquarters, is I do the part of the recruitment. If you go on the website and sign up that you're interested, if you're in my district, I'm the one who does the initial interview. And it's interesting to talk to those folks that are interested in joining. Some of them are, as a matter of fact, I talked to one yesterday. She's a college student majoring in Homeland Security. Other folks are retired. I've had former coasties that want to continue to serve. I've had people that, for whatever reason, when they were younger, wanted to serve in the military and weren't able to do that for some reason, and they've come back now and they've joined the auxiliary to help serve our country. So it's a wonderful organization. If anybody's interested, please check out our website and I'll get in touch with you. It's a great group.
Thanks for your service.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for all you do and the lake levels for all 3 lakes.
As you know, I started that for our own purposes because we needed to know the lake conditions if we're out on patrol. And then I realized, well, a lot of other people want to know that information. So we started to post it publicly.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you. Quarterly Emergency Management Report, Director Vanessa Bonner.
Thank you. Thank you, man.
Morning, Vanessa Varner, Emergency Management Director for Roscommon County. What I provided you is my quarterly report for January to March 2024. It outlines what I've been up to for these past 3 months. Been a little busy. As most of you are aware, within emergency management, I'm always trying to make sure that we're prepared for whatever comes our way. I spend a lot of time doing training. I spend a lot of time building relationships, doing outreach, communicating with anyone and everyone that I possibly can to make sure that they understand what it is that our goals are and what we're trying to do. Making sure that our plans are in place to ensure that our first responders have all the tools that they need. One of the biggest things that Sheriff Stern and I have been doing these past few months is making sure that our active violent incident plans are up to where they need to be. Last year, all of our school districts were granted funds to get school mapping done. I'm happy to say that all of our districts have either been mapped or are scheduled to be mapped, and we have access to those maps so that all of our first responders know exactly where they will be going when they're going into a school, to clear the zones, to make sure that our students are safe. That's paramount to me in making sure that when there's a violent incident, we know where we're going, we're keeping our kids safe, that responders are getting in where they need to be. We've spent a lot of time making binders, getting those maps distributed, and making sure that everybody has access to those who needs them. So that's one thing that I've spent a lot of time doing these last few months. A lot of coordination to get that done. Roscommon County was approved for the Hazardous Materials Emergency Preparedness Grant of $1,530. We should be getting our grant agreement here at the end of summer. The scrap tire grant was also approved, so that is another thing.
How much is that gonna be?
That is for a 2-day collection if we have 2 collection days at the
No,
household
I mean the
hazardous
grant,
waste.
the grant.
It doesn't
10
specify,
grand, 20 grand, 50 grand?
it doesn't specify a total, and Jody, you can help me with this one a little bit. It's
No.
for the total collection.
Yeah, so basically they will
Amount.
pay for the total amount and cost of collecting and disposal. So it's an estimate of
One
probably,
semi-truck worth of tires.
yeah, like $7,500, I guess would be maybe what I would say could be an estimate of how much we'll get reimbursed for. I know.
You know, these
2
grant
days-
applications are not easy to write. and-
It's, well, and we don't actually even end up getting a bill for it because the state pays the contractor directly.
Oh, okay.
So we agree to have the service and they pay them directly for the service, so. It
Well, I
doesn't.
know
end
you
up-
know how to write those grants, so I really
I-
appreciate your.
I try to write them.
Having you
I
on
try
board to
very
do that
hard.
for us.
Another thing that happened right at the end of last quarter, the beginning of this quarter, is our integrated public alerting and warning system certificate became approved, which makes us an alerting authority so that Roscommon County no longer is relying upon the state of Michigan to do public alerting. So if an alert needs to go out for a disaster, an emergency, we can send that mass notification out. So we're not relying upon the opt-in, we can do those push throughs. So that's that notification that goes across the bottom of a TV screen or push through for a tornado warning on your phone. That obnoxious beeping that happens on your phones, you can send those out. So that was huge. We're required to do monthly proficiency tests. That's something that I'm required to maintain. So that's something that I've been following through with. I've also spent some time assisting the Transit Authority in creating their emergency operations plan, as that's a mandate that's come down on them. I'm working on updating our emergency operations plan. I know there's a lot in this report. Anybody have any questions for me about what I've been up to? Yes.
Thanks, Vanessa, for being here today. I'd like to particularly thank you for the school walkthrough on March 27th. Golden Lake, Roscommon, and Charlton Heston. I think it's important for people to see you out there and understand that it's an important job. And it's only important when it's needed, though. So I thank you for your due diligence.
Well, thank you for.
Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you very much for everything. Next, we have the property assessed clean energy PACE. President Todd Williams.
Good morning. My name is Todd Williams. I'm President and General Counsel of Lean and Green Michigan. We're a PACE program administrator, which currently works with 58 local jurisdictions across Michigan. We're hoping to work with you guys as well. Why we're here, and it's part of one of my favorite parts of my job is talking to new communities. We only tend to do this when one of your property owners has reached out to us. Property owner is walking around with a little bit of information about his project. He is interested in using PACE on his property. And to do that, the county would need to take action first to create a PACE district. I'm happy to, I'll start off with a 10,000 foot view and we can get as granular as you need to. So property assessed clean energy is a way to finance energy efficiency, renewable energy, and environmental hazard mitigation on commercial and industrial and agricultural properties only. That does include multifamily properties of 4 units and above. It's a private loan from a private lender to a private property owner. And the role of the county is really to serve as the security interest. The property owner and the lender come to you and ask for you to place a tax assessment against their property. If they fail to pay it, it gets collected like any other tax assessment with one mitigating factor. We do not ask you to pay anything out of your revolving fund. If they're delinquent, the lenders just get screwed for the 3 years while you try to collect. They don't get the money up front, and then you guys have to chase it down afterwards, like other special assessments. So small wrinkle. It's always kind of fun for me to hear regular assessments, process while I'm talking at the same day. It makes it a little fun. But again, private property owner, private lender, the role of the county is really just to place the tax assessment and collect the tax assessment if it goes delinquent. I can stop there or I can keep going.
Kind of like,
Sure.
So you're talking about private individuals have a problem with their property as far as
Either a problem, one of my favorite projects ever was a small daycare in October, and this was actually my days of doing PACE in Ohio. It was October. Their furnace blew up, and the bank would not lend them any more money, but the bank sent them to our PACE district to see if we could finance, putting in a new furnace.
it sounds like a special assessment district just for specific people. Is that, or did I get that wrong?
Nope, you are correct. So what we would ask is that you create the opportunity countywide, but it is only ever going to be a special assessment against a property owner who comes forward and specifically says, I want to borrow $1 million and
So
I
they
want
have
you
to
to place the
volunteer
assessment.
to,
Completely voluntary. They're never going to be assessed a dollar that they don't know about, and it's never going to assess
so
any
they
other
want
property
this,
owner.
you're saying that they would want this assessment?
They do. Yep. They want to borrow the money, and they want, in order to get access to this money. It's a little unique. It tends to be competitive market rate interest rate, but it also is a 20 to 25-year loan term. It's very hard to get in any other form of financing, at a fixed, especially to fixed rates. So the property owner is very interested in making the improvements in the property, very interested in borrowing the money, and they're going to ask specifically to get assessed.
So the downside for the county is they have to administer it. The upside is we get to improve property on our county.
Yep. With,
Is there not a downside that if payment's not made, we're stuck with the bill for a while?
no, you would not be stuck with the bill. I can.
Then why do we need the county involved?
I believe their administrators isn't.
So the county, if all goes well, you'll place the tax assessment and it serves as that stick to make sure he pays his bills. Because the threat is if he doesn't pay his bills, he loses his property in a tax foreclosure sale. Why I'm saying the county's not going to be out any money, we've baked it into all of the agreements that the lender knows they are not going to get paid by the county at any point in time, unless the county actually collects a delinquent amount. Two, if the property goes to a tax foreclosure sale and does not sell and it falls to the county or the county treasurer, they're not going to get paid while you own it. The only time the lender is going to get paid is when it goes back into private hands and the assessments start back.
It's a flow through then, is what you're saying.
not even a flow through. So one of the best things about Michigan PACE versus other states, you are able to structure this so that the lender can directly bill and collect the money. If you want to do it on bill, you can. We'd recommend that you charge, a 2% fee at that point, so your staff time is covered. My real recommendation is that you let us help you with the initial due diligence on projects, and that when you approve a project, the assessment gets created, gets placed, the lender collects, he pays all of his bills, and 20 years from now, we release it, and you've done nothing else.
Would it be something like a gas station that has tanks that need to be taken care of?
Those, I was gonna say, those are one of my least favorite projects. I would not.
But they would count, they would be.
They could count. The potential environmental reclamation cost of removing underground storage tanks is pretty high. Frankly, a lot of PACE lenders don't like that amount of liability, because to clean up a leaking underground storage tank, you're not only clearing out the property there, but you are digging until you hit clean dirt, whether it's your parcel or 4 parcels. And so gas stations are pretty tough. Typically what we've seen are hospitality, so hotels, new hotels, senior living facilities, particularly new construction senior living facilities, office buildings, general businesses buildings, and an awful lot of multifamily. We financed a little over 70 projects in Michigan, not a single gas station. I know of 30 gas stations done in Ohio, and it was a mess. So
yeah, I can add some color with Todd. So let's step back here. We've purchased the Kirkland Community College, and as you can see there from the recommendation letters from your and Borton, who's your state rep, and Michelle, I can never say her name right, your state senator, they're in support of this. And part of this rural area, when we look at this project as a developer, we have to build workforce housing on site. Without that, we're not going to be able to recruit people to come and work there. This is going to create about 165 jobs. And then we will also be assessed and we'll be paying taxes, which Kirkland did not do, to Asabo Township. So we'll create tax base and we'll create jobs. And these are good paying jobs. So as we looked at this, as I started looking and found out you had a brownfield authority, this is just another tool as part of the capital stack. So as the capital stack, as we look at it, how much we have to spend, this is just a tool to help us with the equity piece. Okay, we'll probably go out and finance the workforce housing at this point, because our stakeholder in this project is the state of Michigan. Okay, these are going to be for boys 14 to 17. And they will come from, these are level 1. This is a non-secure facility. These are level 1 boys that have gotten into some trouble with the judicial system. They're not violent criminals. They haven't committed any felonies or anything like that. That's one segment. Foster care, wards of the state, and orphans. And we're going to concentrate on the career technical education side of it. So our goal is to steer them in the right direction. And you've got this beautiful facility out there, but it's got a lot of aging infrastructure there. And so what we have to do is invest into the property. And this is just a tool to give us, I would say, efficiencies in things like roofs and lighting and boilers. And I mean, there's a whole list of things that qualify. Some things don't qualify for this. But multifamily, we plan on building, start with 25 units, all 2-bedroom. They can house about 50 employees, and we'll build from there. At one time, where we're going to do it is right on the property where at one time out there was housing out there, but they decommissioned it, say, in late 09. So that's kind of a basics of why we're asking for this. And it's not only for me, but if other developers come into the county, they can also use this tool. So it's not just for our project, but for future projects as well.
Well, it sounds like the jobs would be like healthcare professionals and taking care of the people that you would have at the facility. Is that type of?
Correct. There would be food
plus the infrastructure rebuild.
Yeah,
and all that stuff. Temporary jobs.
Think about this. You're going to have 400 boys with a staff of another 150. Let's call it. It's 550. That means you have to feed everybody every day. So that's 1,500, 1,600 meals a day.
All boys?
Just boys. No, yeah, you can't put boys and girls.
Oh, they're doing it everywhere else. I was wondering.
Well, unfortunately, we've lost a lot of bed space, and that's what precipitated this. Bear River Health, which is our sister company, and it's kind of the backbone of this. They're our largest substance use disorder facilities in the state of Michigan. They house on any given day currently about 250 people. These are residential facilities where you're staying more than, say, 30 days. They're expanding now down into Mount Pleasant, around 350 residential.
Would these be any folks who would have mental health problems? For example, I'm on the committee of the Northern Lakes Community Mental Health Association.
They're going to come from all 83 counties, and they'll be assessed as they come in. Mental health's a broad term,
Right.
but I think, a lot of these kids will suffer from poor family life, poor upbringing.
It seems to me that would relieve some of the pressure on our group. Because you would have places, right now, we're short of beds everywhere.
Oh, the entire state, yeah.
Yeah.
So, theoretically, if you look at this, go ahead.
Spinning it a little bit back towards PACE. This is a very interesting project.
Okay.
It sounds like a very good investment, a great new development.
And we got off on the development versus the project. Okay.
Yeah, I want to be clear, I'm not asking you to approve the project yet. Frankly, it sounds like he's got a lot of things that would traditionally qualify for PACE, aged buildings that need new mechanicals, new lighting, and I love a great story and I love a great project that's going to have the wherewithal to be there long-term for the loan. At this point in time, I could not, recommend that you approve the project as a PACE project just because we haven't done any due diligence. So, part of working with Lean and Green Michigan is we're here to field the initial calls. We're also here to field, going through about 80 to 85 data points and working with the lender and making sure everything is done and statutorily compliant before you guys have to think about, would you approve it as a PACE project to place the tax assessment?
Let's step back. There's no approval here.
No, there is very much
on their
approval
end, but not
of
approving
PACE.
our project.
Yeah, your project is, approving it as a
moving
PACE project, yes.
Correct.
But approving you still have to go through all those regular approvals, permitting, zoning, everything else aside. Approving the PACE financing does not do anything else with that. I believe Commissioner Russo had a question.
No, Commissioner Mulber.
Madam Chair, not to go back and forth, but the Madam Treasurer may add value to this discussion. You're so inclined to call on her.
Yes.
Second question is, worst case scenario, the township places a special assessment on the tax roll and it becomes delinquent and it gets sold at auction after 3 years. If it does not sell for the amount to cover that special assessment, I by law am able to charge back to the township what we did not, gain from the sale. Who would I charge back and what law would I use to charge back?
So the PACE statute, I forget the MCL sections completely. I think it's 460, but it's Public Act 70 of 2010. It was recently amended by Senate Bill 302 and 303 of last year. I can email it to you directly later on today. I just, off the top of my head, I don't want to give you a wrong section, but it is Public Act 270 of 2010. Created the ability to place PACE assessments and create PACE assessments. As to the delinquencies, thankfully we are still, we are midstream on our first 4 that have gone delinquent out of 70 some projects. So it's all still a little hypothetical. The lawyer in me wants to see one go through the full process just so I can test all of my hypotheses. The president of me as president of Lean and Green Michigan, I'm mortified at the concept that one has fallen into a delinquency. There are 3 properties currently delinquent, same property developer, handling all 3 of them up in St. Clair County. They're currently placed on the tax bills, accruing the appropriate fees and interest for the county. And the county has not paid anything to the local jurisdiction for that. It's our belief that the delinquent amounts would be cleared with the tax sale, the future installments of the assessment would run with the land to the new property owner. And so we hopefully will not have a shortfall that would come out of the county pocket. The county should not be coming out of pocket with any money. Hopefully you're selling the property enough to get the fees, your own fees covered. Frankly, if my lenders don't make a dime on this, I don't care. We're here to try and structure the risk to be mostly on the lenders and to protect our clients, which are our jurisdictions. I would say there's a couple of safeguards, and it's the mitigating risk as best as possible. No property owner will be allowed to borrow unless you go against our recommendations and allow it to happen. More than 25% of the property value as a PACE loan. We don't like to see that ever go above 25% of the property value. On a new development or a massive redevelopment, we will look at what the as complete value is. I tend to be fairly risk adverse. I like to get these guys to borrow as little as possible. Find the grants, find the rebate programs, borrow the money that you need, but let's make sure it's a small portion of the overall project. With that, we also take a look at their total debt structure. We don't like to see that go above 90% of the property value. So, senior loan, PACE loan, any other loans rolling in together, we don't like to see that go above 90%. So I'm hopeful. I ran the calculation a long time ago, but on a 25-year PACE loan, if they borrowed 25% of the property value at any given time, 3-year collection process, the amount that you need to get at the tax foreclosure sale is roughly 4% of the property value.
But I just want the commissioners to know that if there's a chargeback, who would we charge back?
I don't believe there ever will be, but all of the money and all of the risk should be borne by the lender. And I'm happy to have you take a look at our documents and make recommendations for how we could shift all of that risk of loss to the lender that we possibly can.
I would like to do that. Thank you.
And definitely before any project gets approved and any assessment gets placed, we will work with your team and frankly, we work with a lot of county treasurers in reviewing the documents at the end of it. I would love to have your eyeballs on it before an assessment would be placed. So creating the district doesn't create a project. It just creates the opportunity for one.
How many counties are signed up?
I believe it's about 25. There's actually a listing on the trifold you have of all of our jurisdictions. Of the 58, I think it's about 25, 26 of them are counties. I don't always remember the number off the top of my head. It gets a little fluid in there.
Madam Chair. I've listened to this. I don't feel we should ever place the county in a position where we may have to foreclose on properties. If there's private investors, let the private investors take that risk, not the county. I've heard a lot of words in all this, like should, don't believe, has not yet been that way. And I'm not comfortable with this at all.
And Chair, it looks to me like lenders do a much better job in doing their due diligence on any project that would ever come along. And it looks like they're the ones that would be mostly at risk, or the lenders. I think the county would have very little risk. You're looking at being able to foreclose eventually on it. You're going to get most, if not all, of your money back anyway, if you had to go through the foreclosure process. In the meantime, it brings a lot of benefits, whatever project we're talking about, this particular project, but whatever particular project would be, that's going to go through its own due diligence. So each individual project is going to have to be looked at and scrutinized that way. So, I mean, like the gentleman's saying, this just presents an opportunity to have somebody come in and make a presentation, not necessarily this particular project. We can look at that individual project on its own merit. So I and the little bit that I've heard about it, I think it sounds like a good project to me.
Yes.
This is an awful lot of information to digest. At the end of the day, I'll be honest with you, you're forthright. I'm taking my direction from the treasurer, because she's the one that has to deal with it. Thanks for the present. Again, a lot of stuff to digest, and I agree with Mr. Weiss. The word hopefully concerns me.
I
Can I just make a point here? The investor is the state of Michigan. They're putting the money in. We've asked them for $30 million. That's what's going to fill the infrastructure. This is just a backstop. We're not going to borrow a whole lot of money because the state is our stakeholder. And the money will come from Medicaid, Medicare that will pay for this, which will pay us, which will allow us to do it. So this money is coming from the state. And this is to help our children here. So I understand where you're coming from, and I understand that, but we may have to fund a little bit of this out of our own pocket, which we easily can do. We're very strong. And if we have to do that, we want to be able to choose the pace. So just so you understand, this money is coming through DHHS. It's going to come through education. It will come from the LEO, and will also come from corrections. Those are the 4 areas of the state.
And you shouldn't need our money.
What's that?
And you should not need our money or assistance.
Not.
We're not. If we have to go to a lender, then we would borrow it from a lender. But you're secure. You're secure. And as he's saying, you know, we haven't seen any foreclosures. Space has been around a long time, but that's entirely up to you.
And Chair,
Yes.
I would have to agree with Commissioner Milburn. I would really like to hear from Rebecca, but I would like her to go in with the right attitude and trying to make this work, as opposed to, if there's one little thing, it isn't going to work, it's going to squash the whole deal. I would like her to look at it and do her due diligence on it. And I'm going to take a lot of what she has to say into account. So convince her. Okay.
Very, very happy to follow up with her. Yeah, look, I don't want any of our communities to ever feel uncomfortable with what we're presenting or what we are doing on their behalf. And, you know, I challenge all of my team to, you know, take the questions and answer the questions as they come. So we at Lean and Green Michigan are here to work for you and make PACE accessible to your property owners, you know, to bring the lenders to bear, to bring the contractors to bear. But at the end of the day, you know, I'm here to make sure that you guys are happy, including your treasurer. So we're open to all questions.
Yeah, let me reinforce my comment I made earlier. The treasurer, the controller, and the collective intelligence of this board is what I listen to.
Yep.
I do appreciate the information, but again, an awful lot of information to digest. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here today.
Understood. It's
Thank
one of the
you.
reasons we like to come out and do an initial conversation. So
I
thank
have
you all
one
for your
final
time.
question.
Yeah.
Is this a private enterprise? I see it's trademarked.
So Lean and Green Michigan,
This is not a government agency, correct?
we are not a government agency. So we are a private company running programs and jointly, you know, the pay statute allows you to create a district and allows you to have it jointly administered with other districts. So all of our, the pretty green on the back of the map, the 58 local jurisdictions are essentially 58 separate programs that we jointly administer as one market. I can tell you, Oakland County, Wayne County, Grand Traverse, all have slightly different things that they care about and all have different things baked into their agreements. We try to make it look as uniform as possible, but yeah, I try to juggle and make sure that every one of our jurisdictions, that we're meeting their needs. Yeah, we can help design the program. We try to keep it, you know, fairly close with our model program, but we're here to tailor it as well.
Yes.
I just, a couple of things. Rebecca and I got this email from Brenda Batchelder a couple months ago, I think. And initially, I think both of us were in that negative attitude that Commissioner Ostergren, because it seemed a little sketchy. I'll be honest with you.
I not to interrupt, but I
And-
always feel like I'm selling a marching band.
You are.
Yeah.
But a couple things that I found as I went along, were this actually is a federal PACE is actually a federal project that started for Clean Air, Clean Water, Clean Properties Act. So that's important for you guys to know. The second is it is then run down through and under a statute through the state of Michigan. I emailed you that statute number, so you have that, Rebecca. It is collected similar to the general property tax.
Yeah.
So,
Small correction, it is not a federal program.
well, they have a federal program
They,
for PACE.
unfortunately, the USDA just rolled out a new program this past year
Oh, did they just kick it?
and called it PACE because apparently the current administration was unhappy that USDA was going to call it ACE, and so they just slapped a P in front
Threw a
of
P
it.
in front of it. Okay.
But you also find, that there's another version of PACE which deals with senior care,
Yes.
elder
Senior care.
care.
Yep.
And so it is a horrible acronym in that there are now multiple versions of PACE. But Property Assessed Clean Energy originally started, I think the first state to create it as a state program, or the possibility for local programs under state statute was California, and it has spread since then. In 2010, it was started by a state statute here in Michigan, but it still requires, the state creates it, but it only creates it as far as it empowers you to create a program if you want it.
Sure.
So it's local control under various state things. The Fed has no role. So
Okay.
sorry for any confusion.
That's okay. So going back to what I was talking about, so when you guys were looking at this, what I found was that Seago County actually has this district created, Rebecca. So I thought that might be a great source for you guys to maybe reach out to some of the commissioners and to the treasurer up there and see really something in action. Because it's always better to talk to somebody who's dealing with it. I know Rebecca uses her resource as well.
I'm just hoping everybody keeps an open mind. That's all I'm doing.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks.
Have a great day.
Roscommon County Millage, Commissioner Ostergen.
Thank you very much. That really isn't the title, I believe, of what I want to talk about here today, but we'll take it from there. And I just want everybody to think about this. If public safety, emergency planning, MSU, and economic development were individual separate line items right now, how different and how much easier would it be if we were to ask the taxpayer for a millage increase on these individual items, as opposed to the board making a determination on where the money is spent? I would submit that it would be much easier to explain and justify. Right now, when we ask for millage increases in the general fund, the taxpayer doesn't trust us to spend their hard-earned income where they want it to be spent. That's the problem. It's a matter of trust and judgment. We, as a commission, decide where to spend tax dollars. Why are we now considering a separate line item regarding building infrastructure millage? Same logic applies to public safety and emergency planning, MSU and economic development. Same logic. First of all, this split out is no different than the proposal we asked for in the last election, or what we are going to be voting on in regard to the building infrastructure in our meeting. We're not going to be asking for any, the major difference, however, is that we're not going to be asking for any millage increases in the breakout, except, okay, the breakout in the infrastructure program, we are asking for millage increases. How is that going to increase or help the chances of passing? The taxpayer would like to have some say-so on how their tax dollars are being spent. We separate these individual departments away from the general fund, they will have some say-so. Right now, the taxpayer is not in any mood for a tax increase to the general fund. In my opinion, they feel that we haven't managed it well in the past and will probably not vote for any millage increases at this time, but they would vote for them if they were separated out and they knew where the money was going. After talking with Jody, she explained to me that public safety with salaries is taking 1.9 mil of the 3.5185 mil the county is currently spending. Is that correct, Jody? Is that number still correct?
It's 1.9 million.
What is the mill? What mill of, I understand, is a mill is a mill is a mill. It's just, That's why there says 1.9 mil of the three. What percentage of the what millage number of the 3.5185 is currently spent on public safety?
If you include the jail in that, which gives you another 2 million on there, then you're at 1.9 mil. So I think that's maybe where we,
That's what I was
Okay.
talking, that's what I'm
Yes.
talking about. Okay, it depends on how we break it out. Anyway, emergency planning is currently included in the general fund, just like public safety. These two line items in our general fund budget are controlled by the board. I'm not sure what emergency planning is budgeted for right now, but I would propose that we ask the public to separate it from the general fund and ask for a 0.1 mil be assigned to it, since we're paying for it out of the general budget right now. That would be a cost of $10 to the taxpayer, who would pay, that they would have to pay for every $100,000 of taxable value that they would have to pay. Since we're not paying for MSU and economic development in our budget at all, right now, the taxpayer would have an opportunity to vote in a millage for those if they wanted to, as a separate entity, and as we've been discussing. The taxpayer would also be able to vote for paying any additional amounts for public safety and emergency planning well into the future. That would give the taxpayer control over where their tax dollars are being spent. Right now, I've heard from many of my constituents, again, that they don't trust us with how we spend their tax dollars, and they want more control over how we spend their money. Splitting all four into separate line items, the taxpayer could identify as necessary or not necessary, and it should not be left up to the commission. It would be left up to the taxpayer. It'd be much easier for the taxpayer to understand if we were asking for a millage increase in these separate line items out of the general fund, so millage increases could be voted on in the future instead of the way we asked in the last election. Then MSU economic development, if MSU and economic development is important to the taxpayer, they can vote on a millage increase. When asking for tax increases, we need to be mindful of how we spend and ask for increases, and it needs to be a long-term incremental process. Thank you very much.
Questions? Yes.
Not so much a question, Madam Chair. I understand Eric's logic, but I know that the MSU and Economic Development Board, Brenda's here today. Brenda, correct me if I'm wrong, but the board, Economic Board, if with your permission, Madam Chair, Economic Board voted unanimously to tie bar both the MSU and Economic Development together. Am I correct? Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Brenda.
May I ask, why do they want to be tied together?
Oh, we feel that there's a lot of for economic development. They're more in the community development field.
We just felt that it would be a good partnership. MSU Extension typically focuses a lot on community development as opposed to the EDC, that's economic development. So we felt that that was a good opportunity to pool our resources together. We have had some small discussions about how that might look. Again, we just got support from our board to move forward with a joint millage request. As you can see, the EDC committee request is a small fraction of the MSU ask for a potential millage request, but thought that we could build upon a partnership there, potentially increase, some staff support. Again, haven't really had those conversations, just bringing it to the Board of Commissioners at this point.
I've got to ask, though, why would you not have them separate, one and the other?
Well, with
And then
the,
if somebody didn't want MSU,
Right.
they can vote against MSU. If they want economic development, they can vote for economic development.
well, with our EDC board, comprised of mainly volunteers. So I'm the only paid part-time support staff that wears the Michigan Works hat and the EDC hat as well. So it's an awful lot of work for our board to go out there and promote this. We thought by joining forces and having a committee to speak on behalf of both the services that MSU provides and the services and programs that Michigan Works and the EDC provide, that we could rally our forces together. It would be it'd be a heavy lift for a $50,000 a year ask for the volunteer committee, but pulling both resources together for the MSU and EDC, we felt would be more impactful.
I think the key word is partnership.
Mhm.
Thank you.
What
We're
millage?
gonna actually talk about this more, this topic in our actual meeting.
Oh, okay, okay. All right.
So,
Thank you very
yeah.
much.
If we can wait till our next session to actually get into that, because we have that in there.
Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thanks. Any other comments on Commissioner Ostergen's? Okay. With that said, the meeting is adjourned and our,
I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt. I'll make sure everyone's aware, we are getting ready to replace the sidewalk right outside. You may be hearing mass construction, so please, we're not being invaded, I just want to get.
okay. So this meeting is adjourned. The next one will start at 10:15. The Roscommon County Board of Commissioners for April 24th at 10:15 a.m. Rex, would you like to lead?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Wolfson.
Here.
Ostergren. Russo.
Here.
Milburn.
Here.
Censor.
Here. Approval of the agenda. Are there any deletions or additions to the agenda before we approve it? Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I make a motion as presented.
Discussion? Roll call?
Milburn.
Yes.
Ostergren.
Yes.
Censor.
Yes.
Wolfson. Russo.
Yes.
Carried.
Approval of the consent agenda. The items in the consent agenda are as follows. The meeting minutes from April 10th, 2024, Lake Level Control Structure Special Meeting and Board Meeting, April 10th, 2024. Our correspondences, the Lapeer County Resolution for Freedom of Homeschool, proposed Wake Oak Resolution, letter from Kim Morley, Crawford County Resolution supporting the citizens of local choice ballot initiative, Ingham County Resolution supporting statewide water affordability legislation, letter regarding the Houghton Lake level, Crawford County Resolution supporting the Protect Michigan Kids Bill Act, letter from the Michigan Department of Treasury, letter to the Board of Commissioners regarding the Houghton Lake level. I and J were a repeat of H, which was the letter regarding Houghton Lake level, the letter to the Board of Commissioners regarding Roscommon County Commission on Aging and the Roscommon Community Senior Center, and the Roscommon County Home Meal Program. We had the monthly department reports. The sheriff reported for March. The Roscommon County Animal Control report and stats for March. The Roscommon County Sheriff Revenue Report for January and February, and our Controller's Report. Do I have a motion to accept and approve the consent agenda? Second? Who's first? Okay,
I did both.
all right. Clerk, please call roll.
Russo.
Yes.
Milburn.
Yes.
Censor.
Yes.
Ostergren.
Yes.
Wolfson.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Public comment. Do we have any public comment?
Morning.
Morning.
Mr. Peschik.
My name is Frank Peschik. I'm a resident of Roscommon County, or Roscommon Township. 50-year graduate of Houghton Lake High School, class of 74 with Mr. Mark Milburn.
Nice to see you,
I'm
sir.
here today to introduce you to a friend of mine and a guest. This is Dr. Bob Lorenzer from Marquette. Dr. Bob is a candidate for the 1st Congressional District of the U.S. House. first congressional district is, well, it takes up most of the state of Michigan, everything north of M55 and all the UP, very large congressional district. And Bob is a physician, an MD, correct me if I'm wrong, public health officer, and has served 5 tours overseas with the State Department in roles and capacities. Bob and his wife Peggy left at the crack of dawn from Marquette this morning, drove the 265 miles to get here, and I'd like to introduce this guest.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to introduce myself. I'm spending today in Roscommon County to get to know your county. That's what a representative should end up doing. So the entire day is dedicated to the county. Frank is going to be my chief of staff today to show me around, to talk to the voters, to talk to the citizen what's important for you. Again, that's what a representative should do. I hail, from Marquette, Michigan. I've lived there since 1989. Before that, I worked on the Navajo Nation as a physician for them. I did 5 tours of duty in the State Department, Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Korea, covering Mongolia, Russia, Japan, and in North Africa. I came back to retire. Was going to do Habitat for Humanity, learn some worthwhile skills outside of my doctor business, and do charity medical care. But my service days are not over. That's why I'm running for Congress. I believe that in Congress, we need to represent rural America, rural Michigan. That's northern Michigan. I'd like to be able to facilitate any way possible that if you can't do it at the local level or at the state help, that the federal government would be with you to try to solve our problems. Our problems, which I'll learn more of today, but if it's similar to any place in the first district, we're talking about economic viability. We're talking about livable wages. We're talking about middle class. We're talking about supporting small businesses, getting back manufacturing. We're talking about healthcare. We're talking about education. So that's what I'm here today. Thank you for the opportunity. And after the meeting, I'll stay around longer. So if anybody wants to chat with the doc, I go by Dr. Bob. I've been that way for a long time. When I was with Obama, with the presidents, Obama, Clinton, Bush, Carter even, one thing they said to me, Dr. Bob, I like that name. So I appreciate the opportunity and a short introduction. Thank you very much.
And I'll also will include, we will be later this afternoon from 4 till 5:30 at the T-Box Indoor Golf in Houghton Lake for a meet and greet. So if you can't speak to Dr. Bob today, you're welcome to join us there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay.
We have a Miss Julie Darton.
I apologize. I apologize. I muted myself after I was unmuted. So good morning. I appreciate the opportunity to address you remotely. I'm attending a conference in Fargo, North Dakota, where I was a presenter yesterday, and I'm not able to be with you in person at the meeting. I'm seeing that you're having some trouble hearing me, so I'll just pause briefly.
It's just me.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Better.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. I was listening to the work session, and I was able to hear the conversation that was occurring around the millage for the Economic Development Corporation and MSU Extension. So our intention in creating a partnership for the millage was that both our departments were affected by, the change in the collected revenue in 2022. I think we both understood, both our organizations understood the need to reduce funding. And yet we still are pursuing the effort to, have funding for our organizations to serve Roscommon County and to continue our missions, both of which are focused on improving the lives of people in Roscommon County, and improving the environment in Roscommon County for businesses, for families, for individuals. We offer education to people. We really are, in terms of the way we share information, we try to be democratically minded. The information that's generated in our universities is for everyone, and we are doing our best to extend that out into communities. We work with youth. We work around the issues of natural resources, and I just when this issue comes up in unfinished business, I don't know if I'll be able to address you during that time, but I wanted to say, we are understanding that voters make decisions based on what is best for them and their interests. We hope we can make the case to voters that we are bringing valued and valuable resources to Roscommon County by providing support for local businesses, by providing avenues for youth to explore careers and positive futures as citizens of our communities. And also, in the ways that we're supporting, self-reliance and self-resilience, and the ways we're encouraging people to be good stewards of their own resources and our collective natural resources, including the beautiful lakes and rivers and streams, forests and ecosystems that exist across our state, and especially in beautiful Roscommon County. So thank you so much for this opportunity to address you through public comment. And, I will leave it to your discretion if I can answer questions during the unfinished business portion of the agenda. Thank you so much.
No other public comment? Do we have any visitors at this time? Yes.
With your permission, they'd like to give an opportunity to speak. Amy, come on up, please.
She thought she was safe.
Tammy and I went to school together too back in the day with Frank. Old home days. Old home days. Well, Tammy's a few years younger than we are. Yes, Tammy.
Hi, so me and Tammy work for Mid-Michigan Community Health Services in Houghton Lake. We also have some offsites in Roscommon, the school-based health clinics, and we've recently opened an additional satellite in West Branch for our substance use disorder clinic. I personally am an RN that is the director of our substance use, behavioral health, and psychiatry services. Over the last 3 years, I've had the privilege of working with our patients directly for substance use. My focus for today is just to kind of be a resource and hopefully a point of contact for you guys for the opioid settlement funding. Our facility is the only substance use clinic in the Roscommon County. There are providers that do prescribe the medications to treat patients with substance use, but there's very few. Roscommon County, Ogama County, even Crawford County, it's kind of a treatment desert. There's a limited access and limited resources for patients, especially if they're a high-risk patient population with mental health and substance use. So our goal is kind of to be an access point and a resource to see if we can spread that funding to the whole spectrum of treatment for patients. I know there's a big focus, even with Ogama County, I'm on their opioid committee for the correctional facilities, which I do agree with. Roscommon County does a better job than most correctional facilities for patients with substance use. I have a great relationship with Angie over at the jail. But we can do better. And I think we'll get the most impact for our patients if we look at the whole spectrum of care for them, pre-incarceration, that incarceration time, and post-incarceration, because there is an extreme access issue for patients. There's also a lot of limited resources. I know transportation is a huge issue. And I'm just hoping that we can kind of be that resource for you guys to see where that funding might have the most impact, and kind of be the voice for our patients and our team that's working for patients with substance use.
One comment I'd like to make is that the three counties, Crawford, Roscommon, and Ogama, were kind of on that I-75 corridor and experience a lot of the same types of situations, or type of, our communities have a lot of the same feel. What is interesting is that for the next 15 years, over $1 million is going to come between the three of you. That's a whole lot of money. It's probably going to be more than $1 million, be close to 2 million. And this is a wonderful opportunity to everybody to come together and work with the experts who know about substance use disorders and treatment. We all have experienced it. We all know somebody. We all have people that are near and dear to us.
Yeah, substance use, nobody is immune to it.
And it's a real big problem. And we need to, I would hope that we could all reach out of our silos, out of our areas of safety, and reach out to these other communities, and let's talk about what would be real answers that would really help people improve their quality of life.
Yes. I had an opportunity to meet with Dan and Tammy last week at their offices in mid-Michigan, and I'd like to thank you both for being here today to present. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Any other visitors? Unfinished business. The building infrastructure millage, Commissioner Wolfson?
Yes, at the last meeting, I brought up that possibly going for a $500,000 for capital improvements and maintenance. After running some figures, I'm proposing that we ask for a 0.35 mils, not a $500,000 for those purposes. We've heard our maintenance person tell us how bad our heating systems are in, and someday we're gonna have to address that in the near future. So I have got on the agenda for approval of a resolution to ask for 0.35 mils. I believe you all had a copy of the thing in your board packet.
Any questions?
Yes, how much revenue would that generate a year? 0.35.
Approximately 625, approximately 627,000.
What are we currently allocating towards that in our general fund right now? You know, maybe I can ask. It just comes out of when needs arise, then we.
Yeah, so essentially what we do right now through the budgeting process is your department heads, your other elected officials, they are looking basically 3 years out at any major projects that would be needed. And then they submit that into the budgeting process to be funded. For instance, Bill we had a couple projects that were done this year that were in that larger budget. So we do not have the funding to set aside money every year in order to create that, which is why I think Commissioner Wolfson's looking at that.
So basically all the logic I'm talking about with public safety, MSU, economic development, and emergency planning, it's the same thing. We're just gonna break this out of the general fund and have it voted on as a separate.
This is all this money could be spent for, correct? Can't be spent for a general fund. It has to go for capital improvements and maintenance.
What will happen if 600 and some odd thousand a year, and I know the total bill for the whole infrastructure for the boilers and so forth was around 600,000 a year. What will happen if that money is not spent? Will it just sit there? Can it be taken back out?
We have the option,
later on?
we have the option of not levying that millage.
For the upcoming years.
Correct.
Has that ever happened?
This is a new board. We're doing things a new way now.
Okay.
The answer to that question is yes. They did it for Spongy Moth, and they
okay.
paid
That's
early
right.
off
That's
on
right,
the
you did.
bond in order to reduce.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I see where Rex is going, but a little out of the norm again today, but Bill is in the audience. Could he add some value to it? I think it's important for discussion.
If you'd like.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks, Bill. Chief, put you on the spot, but value your input.
I got the construction going on. Do you need me for the meeting? She said, probably not. Right now, we know what our known expenses are. We're gonna spend this much on salt, cutting grass, janitorial, etc. I have to keep reminding everyone, I've only been here 26 months, so what happened before then, I don't know. There's just, we're coming up on this maintenance wave, right? And it's not really maintenance if you're replacing boilers, but it is maintenance because they have a useful life. You could keep them going forever, nickel and dime them, whatever. But there comes a point where the diminishing returns. You know, what point does keeping our old boilers running dollar for dollar versus the natural gas cost? What part do we keep our rooftop units in working order that require R22 refrigerant, which is $990 for a 30-pound can now. It's $5 to make it per pound. The rest is taxes because the EPA wants us off of R22. So I guess if I had my dithers and it was Bill Sullivan's money, I think the appropriate thing, and I know I'm getting a little off subject, but I really think what we should look at budgetary wise for 2025 is let's allocate some money to bring in the experts to say, all right, what point is our diminishing returns on continuing to maintain the systems versus put a new building in? Our carpets wore out. Our roof's going to be right behind this. What point do the building's too big? I mean, one of my first meetings with y'all is, you know, I said, you know, that's almost 500 feet from the metal detector to the treasurer's office, plus another 500 feet to get to the car for our consumers, you know, our customers, our constituents, whatever word you want to put on it. The people that need those services. Last week alone, I had to help somebody sit down at the bench, go back and get one of the electric wheelchairs so they could get in and out of the buildings. And I've seen Sheriff Stern do it also. So I think an intelligent approach, and I know I'm getting off the millage a little bit, but the intelligent approach needs to be, let's get some space planners and some engineering folks in here and let us know what our diminishing returns are. Maybe in conjunction with that, look at this millage so we can keep it up and running for the, you know, it's a 3 or 4 or 5 year process before a new building could be even identified, designed, etc. But, and I said, I know I'm getting a little off topic, but I think the important thing is if we don't maintain certain facets, we don't maintain the boilers and we freeze pipes, and then there's insurance claims and there's just a big mess there. So the boilers would probably be the first thing. There's the opportunity or the challenge that we're having over at the animal shelter. If we got the boilers done, it may be good money after bad in the next year, but at least we're confident that, you know, we're going to be able to maintain the building. People will be able to come to work. Our constituents will be able to come in, pay their bills, get their deeds, etc. So that's the approach I would take. I've also asked Detroit Edison, or I'm sorry, DTE to come in and do a small business evaluation on the utility bills. I've done this many times in my past in the career. And I've asked them to focus on the boilers versus, because they're our natural gas provider. So we are in line for that. It's probably gonna be September, October before they can get up here to do that. So I could have more data to present to everyone, say, all right, this is what our payback's gonna be if we get off of this. And then we can also use that information if we decide to look at a new facility. So I don't know if I answered your question completely, Mark, but there are gonna, could we spend $600,000 a year based on this millage for the next 10 years? Probably. But at what point do we say, well, all right, we're at diminishing returns?
And then that's with your permission, Madam Chair. When I hear Commissioner Wilson and Commissioner Oxley talk, I want to make sure that when we ask for a millage, that it's pointed. We don't ask for too much. We don't ask for too little, that we look into the forecast of the future. Obviously, that's a difficult thing to do, but it's important for us as a board to do due diligence to ensure every taxpayer dollar is spent wisely. And I know you're working on that too.
I told you last meeting, I'm cheap. I don't want to spend a
I don't
dollar
know
more
if
than
I-
I
I don't
have
know
to,
if I'm
or
gonna go
anyone
there.
else's dollar more than I have to.
Thrifty.
But at some point, you can have a car that's been in an accident, and you can keep fixing it, but you don't fix the person behind the wheel that's causing all the accidents. You're just going to keep going up this path, right? So there's going to become a time of diminishing returns, and with utility prices and technology changing, and I'll use General Motors as an example. They're leaving 2.3 million square feet at the Renaissance Center to move into less than 400,000 square feet at the new Hudson's building in Detroit. When I say the building's too big, it's like, all right, Bill, it's the building, we have it. That's utilities, that's cleaning, that's water usage. If we were right-sized, we would have a much greater comfort level. Corporate America is doing this everywhere right now. I heard this morning, Oracle's going to be leaving Texas to go to Memphis, and they are downsizing considerably. And it's just a matter of fact, in the years I've been in corporate real estate, if you have 100,000 square feet, your management, your people are going to use 100,000 square feet. You have 30,000 square feet, they're going to use it. So when I propose these things, or when I discuss these things, I'm not looking at it as, all right, today I can get the heat on, tomorrow I can get the air conditioner on, the next day I can get the lights on. I try to be all encompassing. And I hope you feel that.
Yeah, you said it, so Mike, so I heard what Rex said. Would you recommend 3.35? Okay, I know you put a lot of time into it, and I appreciate your time.
No, this is not about a new building.
Well, I understand.
This is about maintaining what we
I
have.
understand, and I appreciate your due diligence in ensuring that we're spending the right amount of money and we're asking for the right amount. This is, again, it's imperative that we always are very specific and clear cut.
The challenges we have at the millage rate that he's proposing, will be able to maintain this facility. If a new building ever happens, and I'm not confident it will under my tenure, but if it does, you're going to have a reduction in utilities, et cetera, about the first 5-6 years. And then as warranties start wearing out again, and as things start breaking again, then you're going to need a millage to maintain that new facility or maintain this facility.
Okay.
Thank you.
Madam Chair. Madam Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd just like to add, what is the right number? 0.35, because we're asking for a permanent millage increase. Is that something that we all feel that the taxpayers will be able to
This is,
absorb and handle? That's my only concern. I know we need this.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
this is not forever. This is a 5-year millage.
I'm sorry?
This is a 5-year millage.
A 5-year millage. Okay, that's what I was wondering, is if it goes away eventually. Okay.
It's got a shelf life.
Okay, that I can support it then.
Thank you.
Sorry if I went off on a tangent.
Any other questions regarding this? Comments? Our next is the Economic Development MSU millage discussion. Who would like to start?
Kind of beat that one down, Madam Chair.
Well, we did, but I'm just seeing if there's any questions from any board members since we've talked about it. Okay.
Yeah, I do have a question. What are they, I'm sorry, what are they asking for? How much are they asking for?
0.339 or something like that. 0. No, not for both. Yeah.
Hey, it's a
Yeah.
good question because nobody can figure it out.
Well, I don't have the paperwork.
So we'll terminate our
Yes.
discussion.
Oh. Yep.
Total millage request would be 0.13.
0.13.
Thank you, that's.
Thank you.
You saved us how much?
Which would generate what kind of revenue, Jody, with 1.3 mil? Would we be asking the taxpayers to pay?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's gonna be a little bit more than that. I think one is like
Okay.
I guess one of the questions are we, because we have to decide whether we're going to allow this on the August or the November ballot.
Well, for,
Yes.
we're asking for all this stuff. I would like to see this on a November ballot. I think it would have a better chance of getting approved. Because we're gonna have so much stuff on in August. That's just my opinion.
I know like Denton Township, for instance, they have like 3 or 4 just in the township in
People
August.
Afterwards, they'll just start putting those down.
I support that idea.
Yes.
The value of waiting, same time, if I could, Madam Chair.
Mhm.
Did the board want it on this August or did they look in November? I remember.
It was the intent of the EDC and MSU millage to be on for August, but again, we're in front of the Board of Commissioners asking for
And
your
there's a
support,
lot of
so.
stuff on in August. I would like to
Yes.
see it in November.
I'll go with the collective intelligence of the board, but I prefer when the board says they want it August. We tacitly agree with August. However, it looks like I'm gonna get outvoted on this one.
I would agree with August.
Okay, well, I like the idea of August, Madam Chair. And we can't make a decision here, but at least kind of get an idea of where we're at so we can put our motion for the next board meeting, Madam Chair.
I prefer November only because I think, as Commissioner Wolfson said, if it's gonna pass, I think it's gonna have a better chance of passing. I just know our township that I represent, District 5, we've got, just like I said, in township millages, we've got 4 that are coming, plus any additional that are put on.
I understand, but as a member of the EDC board, I'm gonna go with the collective intelligence of that board because they unanimously voted to move it forward. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I gotta have a question. Why would you feel, because there's a lot of stuff on a ballot, that having another issue on the ballot along the same lines as the others, why would you feel that
I just,
passing?
why do I think? I think after a while, when people look at the ballot and all the millages, generally after a while, they just start marking no. They don't want it. They don't want any increases. You've said it multiple times. None of our constituents want increases. So if all of a sudden they're looking at a ballot and they've got 7 or 8 things that they're being asked to increase, what's the chances of all of those passing? That's just my feeling.
It's
I haven't
actually
heard
called,
anything from, I haven't heard
it's
anything from
called
reps.
voter overload. So if you Google it, you can see it's actually like a thing where people just get ticked and vote no on everything. So.
Rex, do you feel the same way?
Yes, I believe in voter over.
Okay.
The next would be Michigan's other Great Lakes trademarking. Commissioner Milburn.
I cannot stress the importance of trademarking our logo. It is must be done to protect our logo. It's when people look at it, it's up on the Holden Lake Chamber board. It's on some of our printed website. I coined that about 20 years ago. It's been adopted by our county. And it's imperative that we trademark that logo before somebody else captures it. I can't stress it enough.
Yes.
We don't use it here at the county. Well, wait a minute. And if we trademark it, the people that are using it's gonna have to pay for it. We're gonna have to give them a bill.
Charge them a buck. Sorry. Charge them $1. The bottom line is the logo that we've adopted. When I coined it 20 years ago, the chambers took upon themselves, at least I know the Holy Chamber did. And it's up on their billboard. We have to trademark it because if somebody grabs it, they're gonna charge us for
Can
using
the
our logo.
chamber trademark it?
That I don't know, but I think the county should trademark it. It should be a decision based by this commission.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I agree with Mark, and I don't understand about the charging for a trademark. I mean,
Well, we gotta pay, and we're trying to save money.
or are
We
you
don't
talking,
use it.
about to have an attorney draw? Oh,
Yeah.
well, it's not gonna be that much money. It's not gonna be $3-4 grand. I've trademarked stuff, and it doesn't cost that kind of money. A lawyer's gonna charge you whatever he thinks he can get away with.
Excuse me.
I would contend that we need to talk to a different lawyer if he's talking about $3-4 grand.
I don't know
Trademark
what
is not a
costs.
patent.
We're trying to save money.
Yeah, well, I think it's something that's important to get trademarked, just as Mr. Milburn says. I mean, I think that's Michigan's other great lakes. I mean,
Awesome.
I'm not for pursuing this, because we are trying to save money. We've made a commitment to our employees at the end of the year to try and give them more money.
what if it was privately funded? Would that eliminate your opposition? Well, maybe we should ask someone for private funding on this rather than having the taxpayer pay for it. Or perhaps there's an attorney out there in our audience or at our in our county that would do that work for us, pro bono.
I cannot stress the importance of our trademark. I think it's a major mistake not to trademark it. I know Madam Controller has looked, and there's nobody's adopted as a trademark at this juncture. If somebody did, then they would charge our county a certain amount of fee to use their trademark.
I know a little bit about trademark law. If we've been using it and somebody else turned around and they started using it, we could sue them for it, but that's an additional legal expense. So that's something we don't want to get into. So I have to agree with Mr. Milburn.
Mark, why don't you, since the chamber uses it, get what, talking out of turn.
No, I know what you're gonna say. Why don't
Get with the chamber and see if they know of an attorney that's on their list that would trademark that.
Okay, I can do that.
Because I'm sure there's several attorneys in Home Lake that belong to chamber. And they might pro bono one.
I'll do that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Russo.
Any other comments? New business. Tour of the lake level control structures. We have that scheduled for May 8th. I believe the bus is picking us up here at 1 o'clock. Is that correct? Okay. We'll start with Lake St. Helen, go to Higgins Lake, then to Houghton Lake. The delegated authority will give his update at each of the structures. And he figures no longer than probably 15 minutes at each of the structures. Obviously, seeing as we're going to be out on the road, it's not going to be on a Zoom meeting or anything like that. Yes.
Could I suggest 30 minutes, because I know it
It's
takes.
too long.
I'll
Last
tell you,
time we did it, we
took-
were
we
only
took-
there 10 minutes at some places.
Yeah, just a suggestion. At the end of the day, the chairman makes the decision on that.
I think it's an approximate. I mean, I think, you know, if we can dedicate at least 15, 20 minutes, if it goes over a few minutes or something like that, because our delegated authority is giving his update and if somebody has a question or something like that, but I don't think we need a full 30 minutes.
The kicker is by the time we all get out of our cars and get together and get back in our cars, it's gonna take longer than 15 minutes.
Well, I'm saying at the actual structure itself.
Yeah.
Do we have a time limit? Do we have a time set, Madam Chair, as far as like 1, 2:30, 4 o'clock? So that way that. Well, we start at 1, I know, but that way.
We start at 1. I don't know how long it takes us to drive from one to the next to the next. I have no idea.
I think there needs to be a schedule, like Mark says,
Yes.
for a time at each site, since you're inviting the public to show.
You know how long it takes to get from St. Helen to Higgins structure?
And then how fast you drive.
Well, we're not.
But I'm just saying,
Speed limit.
You know,
I'm just saying, I think we need to publish a time at each,
Thanks, Rex.
so the
That's
public
that's
can
kind of what I
show
was
up.
going
And
at.
that's,
I
and
think
that's
it's
fine,
important.
but I don't know how long it takes at each of them.
Well, the two people at that task.
last time we did it, we left here at 1 o'clock and we told everyone we're gonna start off at that time, Home Lake, Higgins Lake, Lake St. Helen. We were back here, Michelle, would you say no later than 3 o'clock on that road trip?
I don't remember.
I know we didn't have no scheduled time, but it worked out good.
So if we leave here at 1, we'll be at Lake St. Helen roughly 1:30-ish.
We're leading from here?
Yes. So 1:30-ish. Higgins Lake. 2:15.
St. Helens or Higgins Lake.
Yes.
Yeah, you better figure at least
2:30.
2:30.
40 minutes. Yeah.
Okay. So Lake St. Helen, we should be there by 1:30. Higgins Lake.
May I make a suggestion?
Yeah, 2:40, 2:45.
We have two commissioners that been on this trip before. Have them Google and
I can Google.
come up with a schedule for us.
I can come up with a schedule.
I think it's just important we have a schedule. There may be some ambiguity and some leeway, and I think that people can understand that. But I think it's imperative that we at least have a schedule plan. So even if we deviate from it, at least we have a plan. We shouldn't just show up. But I appreciate your comment, Rex, and even though it might be a little fuzzy, people appreciate the fact that we at least adopted a schedule.
But if we say 15 minutes at each control structure, if it takes 20 minutes, you're 5 minutes late at the next one.
That's
The
okay.
next one might only take 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're gonna come up with, and then we'll have those times posted.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. I'd like to do that within the next day or so,
Sure.
that it can give the public plenty of notice and time. Motions and resolutions. Michelle, whenever you are ready.
Motion number 1, move to approve the appointment of Tamara L. Frisbee to a 3-year term to the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority Board beginning 4/24/2024 and ending 10/31/2027.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
Discussion,
Excellent candidate.
roll call, please.
Russo,
Yes.
Ostergren,
Yes.
Censor,
Yes.
Wolfson,
Yes.
Milburn.
Yes.
Motion carried. Motion number 2, move to adopt resolution number 2024-04-01, proclaiming the 55th Annual Professional Municipal Clerks Week as May 5th through May 11th, 2024. Resolution number 2024-04-01, proclaiming the 55th Annual Professional Municipal Clerks Week as May 5th through 11th, 2024. Whereas the office of the professional municipal clerk, a time-honored and vital part of local government, exists throughout the world. And whereas the office of the professional municipal clerk is the oldest among public servants. And whereas the office of the professional municipal clerk provides the professional link between the citizens, the local governing bodies, and agencies of government at other levels. And whereas professional municipal clerks have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all. And whereas the professional municipal clerk serves as the information center on functions of local government and community. And whereas professional municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the office of the professional municipal clerk through participation in education programs, seminars, workshops, and annual meetings of their state, provincial, county, and international professional organizations. And whereas it is most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishments of the office of professional municipal clerk. Therefore, the Roscommon County Board of Commissioners do recognize the week of May 5th through 11th, 2024 as Professional Municipal Clerks Week and further extend appreciation to our professional municipal clerks and to all professional municipal clerks for the vital services they perform and their exemplary dedication to the communities they represent.
So move.
Second.
Discussion,
Yes. Michelle, did you draw this up?
No.
Okay, just wondering, it sounded like something you might draw up.
Roll call, please.
Ostergren,
Yes.
Milburn,
Yes.
Russo,
Yes.
Censor,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Motion number 3, move to adopt the attached resolution number 2024-04-02 and authorize Chair Darlene Censor, Director of Equalization Jamie Hauserman, and County Clerk Michelle M. Stevenson to sign the statements of acreage and valuations, L4024s, as equalized by the Roscommon County Board of Commissioners and County Board of Commissioners Assessment Roll Certifications, L4037, 2691 countywide totals and individually for each municipality.
So move.
Oh, I didn't read it yet.
Right. Yes, read it.
I have a lot of talking today. Resolution number 2024-04-02, authorizing board chair and county clerk to sign the statements of acreage and valuations as equalized by the Roscommon County Board of Commissioners and County Board of Commissioners Assessment Roll Certifications, L4037 and 2691, countywide totals and individually for each municipality. The honorable members of the Board of Commissioners, County of Roscommon, Michigan, hereby certify that the assessment rolls of the townships and village have been examined, and we find the rolls relatively equal as equalized. We recommend that the valuations be equalized on taxable property by class in Roscommon County for the year 2024 in compliance with sections 209.5 and 211.34 MCL of 1948 as amended and in accordance with the equalization certificates.
We have a motion,
So moved, Madam Chair.
a second,
Second it.
discussion. Roll call, please.
Russo,
Yes.
Ostergren,
Yes.
Censor,
Yes.
Wolfson,
Yes.
Milburn.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Number 4, move to adopt resolution number 2024-04-03, resolution submitting to a vote of the electorate a special millage for the animal control program services. Resolution number 2024-04-03, animal control program special millage proposal. Whereas the County of Roscommon has operated an animal control and shelter program for over 50 years. And whereas the current program continues to see a need for services and is fully supported and requested by the residents of Roscommon County. And whereas it is the desire of the County of Roscommon County Board of Commissioners, the County of Roscommon Board of Commissioners to continue to provide animal shelter services to its residents that ensures the safe housing of stray, injured, and surrendered domestic pets, diminishing the threat of disease and bite exposures that may cause potential harm to county residents. And whereas the animal control program is responsible for enforcing the Roscommon County Animal Ordinance and the Michigan Dog Laws of 1919 regarding stray, dangerous, nuisance, and unwanted domestic animals, enforcing dog licensing, investigating and prosecuting animal cruelty complaints, and mitigate community member conflicts. Animal control works closely with other local and state enforcement agencies, elected and appointed officials, state veterinarians and health departments, fire departments, code enforcement, and social services. Animal control officers perform essential work that ensures public safety for both humans and animals. Therefore, be it resolved that the following question be submitted to a vote of the electorate in the primary election to be held on August 6, 2024. Shall the expired previously voted increase in the tax limitation imposed under Article 9, Section 6 of the Michigan Constitution in the County of Roscommon of 0.4000 mil, 40 cents per $1,000 of taxable value, and reduced to 0.3928 mil, 0.3928 cents of $1,000 taxable value by the required millage rollbacks be renewed at 0.3928 mil or 0.3928 cents per $1,000 of taxable value and levied for a period of 4 years, 2024 through 2027 inclusive, for maintenance and overall operations of the Roscommon County Animal Shelter, and which will raise in the first year an estimated $645,067.98.
Move, Madam Chair.
I'll second that.
Discussion.
Yes. Since this is a renewal, does the Headley rollback keep going on the 0.39? Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
We have an exemplary animal control, and I think it's bears recognition that Director Mendyke be recognized today. With your permission, Madam Chair, Dee, would you please stand up? Thank you so much for being here today.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
it's been brought to my attention that there's some wording in this may need to be changed from animal shelter to animal control.
Animal control program. This is a combination. So currently the public has two millages, two separate millages. One is specific to the animal shelter, one is specific to the animal control. And if we're combining both of those into one, then we need to make sure the millage language is for the animal control program. And I apologize.
Has to be consistent. With those changes, Madam Chair, I'd withdraw and recognize the fact that we have to make that correction. Not withdraw, just correct.
And are you still okay with that? Yeah. Okay. Roll call, please.
Wolfson,
Yes.
Ostergren,
Yes.
Censor,
Yes.
Russo,
Yes.
Milburn.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Number 5. Move to adopt resolution number 2024-04-04, Roscommon County Ordinance number 6, Soil Erosion and Sedimentation Control as presented and attached. Resolution number 2024-04-04, Roscommon County Ordinance number 6, Soil Erosion and Sedimentation Control. Whereas the state of Michigan has authorized counties to adopt a soil erosion and sedimentation control ordinance pursuant to Part 91 Soil Erosion and Sedimentation Control of 1994 PA 451 Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act as amended. And whereas the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy has approved the Roscommon County Soil Erosion and Sediment Control Ordinance as submitted and presented to the public. And whereas the Roscommon County Board of Commissioners and Roscommon County Soil Erosion and Sediment Control Agent are committed to upholding all provisions of Part 91 and Part 17, including all rules promulgated under Part 91 and Part 17. It is hereby resolved and ordained that the Roscommon County Board of Commissioners adopts Ordinance number 6, Soil Erosion and Sediment Control as presented.
So move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Milburn,
Yes.
Russo,
Yes.
Ostergren,
Yes.
Censor,
Yes.
Wolfson.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Number 6. Move to adopt resolution number 2024-04-05, resolution submitting to a vote of the electorate a Roscommon County capital improvement and maintenance millage proposal. Resolution number 204-04-05, Roscommon County capital improvement and maintenance millage proposal. Whereas the Roscommon County Board of Commissioners recognizes the need to ensure all buildings, grounds, and equipment are maintained in safe and sufficient status. And whereas Act 156 of 1851 states that the County Board of Commissioners of a county may, subject to the limitations provided in Act number 62 of the Public Acts of 1933, as amended, being sections 211.201 to 211.217A of the Michigan compiled laws, levy a tax on the taxable property in the county for the construction or repair of public buildings or bridges. And whereas the current burdens for funding mandated public services requires all funds currently allocated to the general fund through general ad valorem tax and collections, leaving limited resources for replacement and repair of aging infrastructure. Therefore, the Roscommon County Board of Commissioners hereby authorizes that the following capital improvement and maintenance millage be placed on the August 6, 2024 ballot for review and vote of the people. Shall the tax limitation of general ad valorem taxes with the County of Roscommon imposed under Article 9, Section 6 of the Michigan Constitution be increased by 0.3500 mil, 35 cents per $1,000 of taxable value for a period of 5 years, 2024 through 2028 inclusive, on all taxable property within the Roscommon County, for the purpose of providing and maintaining capital improvements within Roscommon County municipal buildings, and shall Roscommon County be authorized to levy such a millage, raising in the first year an estimated $627,000. A portion of revenue may be subject to capture by the Village of Roscommon Downtown Development Authority.
So moved.
Discussion?
Oh, yes, I'm curious. It says estimated 627,000 question mark. Is that?
They always do.
It's worded like that because it has to be in the form of a question.
I apologize.
That's
Okay,
what the
thank you.
question's for. Yes, sorry for out of.
I beg the chairman's indulgence. I didn't catch this before. It seems unusual that we would discuss unfinished business with building infrastructure and then vote on the same thing that day. Can we do that?
This was brought forth at the last work session,
I know that, but we
and I said I was
discussed,
gonna present it.
we discussed it under unfinished business, then we voted on it. That's not the normal procedure that we would adhere to.
We brought it for last meeting.
Yeah, we discussed it at the last meeting. The only reason it was under unfinished business is because Commissioner Ostergen wasn't here. And that would have given him the ability, because he was not allowed to ask any questions,
Okay.
because he was on Zoom and he could only do public comment.
Thank you. I forgot that reason.
Okay, I appreciate that. Because I want to make sure, we talk about transparency, but we really got to do it. I appreciate your comment and I understand.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other discussion? Roll call? Yes.
Yes.
Sorry, Censor,
Yes.
Wolfson,
Yes.
Ostergren,
Yes.
Russo,
Yes.
Milburn.
Yes.
They didn't vote twice there,
Resolution adopted.
I think that's it. All right. Committee reports. Commissioner Ostergen?
Oh, you start with me? Okay, great. In the last meeting, when I was on Zoom, I read my report on the LPT regarding emergency planning. And I hope that that was sufficient for everybody. If you have any more questions on that, I have. But I attended a meeting of the Northern Lakes Community Mental Health Association on 4/18 in Traverse City. Started at 1 o'clock and it ended at 4:30. During the report, Ty Wenzel, CEO report, Ty Wenzel commented that it was important that the board follow up on public comment and address the concerns raised by public instead of ignoring them, and address the comments and concerns in the next meeting. Brian Martinez, CEO, said he'll be doing that from now on. And if it was board or operational related. In the CFO report, Laura Argyle, she said that it's trending at $400,000 overspend, which she says is not unusual. And the general fund is a $380,000 overspend. She said that was also not unexpected. And I guess that's how the government works. It overspends 226,000. And another overspend with those two things. But there was on a positive note, a $226,000 surplus in contractual services. Tony Lenich from Raymond, he's the attorney from Raymond, because there's some ongoing accounting issues that they're looking at. Reported that there's been some procedural changes in purchasing and procurement policies because of what was found in the audit. The budget process is also being revised. Vendors and procurement approval process is being revised also. The combined location of access policy is also being changed. So there's a lot of stuff going on. New credit card policy is being revised. Communications with the board should be easier to report and less cumbersome because of that. Board approval will now be required for any purchases over $100,000. There'll be a formal bidding process on that. Less than $100,000 will be at the discretion of management. 50,000 or below will be delegated to department heads. I wish we had their budgets. It's a lot of money. And that is the CFO or contract manager, and they can approve $25,000 or under will be required to have competitive bids for some reason. Tony's going to put this on his recommendations in writing so the board can review it and talk about it in the next meeting. We talked about making a vote of 11 instead of a supermajority for a rule change. Lots of arguments about 2/3 versus 11 for a vote in Article 8, Section 2, and about changes in the bylaws. We're going to keep 10 for voting on everything else and 11 of 16 for election of a CEO. Motion to make it for 11 of CEO was passed, and discussion to increase the number of days for notifications from 5 for a change in bylaws to 30 days notifications was discussed, and 10 votes, not 11 or 2/3, to pass the change in bylaws. Talked about a half hour involving changes in bylaws regarding the number of days for various issues and votes. No new bylaws were voted on and passed. Recipients' Rights Advisory Committee. They voted to protect the RRAC personnel. Discussion, the motion to protect the team, to protect those providing services against potential legal prosecution, in other words, pay for their attorneys, physical harm, threaten legal action, sexual harassments, and other things that consumers may threaten. Motion was passed to provide that additional protection for the employees. We've got big shortages of bed in northern Michigan. I was talking about this a little bit earlier. Recipients need more access to services. Motion to authorize Ben, who's the chairman, to prepare a letter of reassurance to employees and consumers. Those are the folks that utilize their services, that we're not going to be losing services and do everything to mitigate redundancies. Motion was tabled. Brian said he may not be able to perform the duties and needs to get back to us after talking to the state, as there are certain rules that they need to be followed. Lots of issues that need to be considered. Human Resources update. Neil Roges, the Chief Human Resources Officer, said there's problems that were reported by Raymond were acknowledged. New people have been recently hired, and they're going to get rid of some of the current veterans. Working on making good hires, new policies, new employee handbook. It's going through several edits at this point in time. Projected rollout in January of 2025 for that employee handbook. They're trying to build back relationships, reduced labor relations, legal assistance, process improvement, work injury, American Disabilities Act improvement, changes in ID badges. Hiring and retention, new HR coordinator to focus on hiring process. Openings have been reduced, which is positive. Things are moving along in a good, positive direction, by the way. The board is operating homes are now at 83% staffing. New HR coordinator has been very creative in getting that up to that point, which they say is very good. The relationships with the universities, U of M. They do a lot of hiring through U of M, so that'll be very, very good. Training and development. Lots of improvements, updated training job descriptions, more IT involvement, ethics, LGBTQ. Working on employee retention, current turnover is 8.3%, and it was 20%. That's very positive for this organization. It's really come down a lot. Turnover costs a lot of money. It's overall good report, and things are getting better over the last year. They brought up the fact that they need training. The commissioners and the folks on the board need training on the iPads that they supply us with, much like our iPads. And I had turned mine in and used my own computer, just like I do here with the commission, and it was quite a process. Anyway, that's my report. There's a lot that needs to be done up there, and hopefully we'll be able to continue on making improvements.
Thank you. Commissioner Milburn?
Northern Michigan Counties Association up in Action EDC up in Traverse City. They're almost completed with their annual audit. So far, so good. And the COA, I attended with, Cassie was there too. I was hoping Deborah would be here today, or Chuck Corwin. Not yet, Kathy. But I know there's been a change in policy, and I think Kathy will probably. I can't hear myself, so you and I are in good shape. But there's been a change in policy, and I'm sure Kathy will bring that up. I was hoping Deborah would be here today to elucidate the new change in policy in regard to meals. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Russo?
I just have personnel.
I attended the agenda meeting on Thursday, April 18th. I also attended the Township Associating meeting with our controller Jody and Commissioner Wolfson regarding the new materials management that would be required by the state of Michigan. Basically, we were there just to find out where the townships stood and who they wanted to, if they wanted the county to take this over, if they were interested, or to allow the state to take it over. I had the Houghton Lake Improvement Board on that same day. We discussed bylaws and adopted new bylaws with some revisions. We discussed a possible expo workshop in regards to invasive and native species within Houghton Lake. Once a date and time has been set, I would let everybody know about that. They also talked about different treatments starting on the Houghton Lake canals, I believe in June. We also met with Eagle regarding the materials management plan. That was again, Jody and Commissioner Wolfson and myself, and what is being expected from the county if we decide to take this on, and what would happen if the state took this on.
I have a question. The treatment in the Houghton Lake canals, what is that all about? What is that?
For milfoil, weeds, invasive species.
Okay, and what do they do to treat it? What do they
Depending on
use?
what they find, there's certain chemicals that they'll
And who does that?
RLS and
RLS, which is
Company, we.
the company that they contract with, the Houghton Lake Improvement Board. I can give,
go through special approval process and everything on all those chemicals? And the DNR approve those? Is that what it is?
there
Okay,
has to be a permit.
okay, cool. That was my only question. Thank you.
As Commissioner Sensor said, we went to the Roscommon Township Association's meeting, presented that. There was just about unanimous support that they want the county to take this task on. They're supposed to take it to their board, get written approval, so we have something to back the decision.
Thank you.
That's to come forth.
Thanks, Rex.
Board comment,
I have a comment.
Commissioner Ostergen.
Can you imagine that, huh? Hey, today is my 20th wedding anniversary. I made it 20 years this time. But that isn't what I want to comment about.
Congratulations.
I thought I ought to get that in there. Anyway, I want to read
That lady.
from Tony Medina that he sent the commissioners. All of us got a copy of this, but I think this is important that the public hears this. And his comments are, "Dear Commissioners, I wish to express my support for Commissioner Milburn's suggestion that we have a county controller report once again delivered verbally. Due to my demanding work schedule, I am unable to attend the bi-weekly meetings in person, but I watch the recordings on YouTube. I was disappointed earlier this year when the controller report transitioned to a written format. I found Mrs. Valentino's reports to contain valuable information about county news and projects, and assessing it through the consent agenda on the county website is cumbersome, especially for those best familiar with computers. Some people understand better when hearing something verbally rather than having to read. Please consider reverting to verbally delivered controller report. Additionally, I endorse Commissioner Milburn's idea to trademark the slogan, Michigan's Other Great Lakes. It's catchy and appealing, potentially boosting tourism and local pride. Failure to trademark it could allow another community to claim it. This slogan could become a brand with merchandise like T-shirts and bumper stickers that could be sold in area gift shops and gas stations, benefiting the county. I urge the board to explore this further, including seeking potential funding from local chambers of commerce or townships. However, I oppose the 0.5 building and grounds millage due to observed waste and poorly planned projects, specifically repaving the now unused parking lot across from the county building last summer. Then installing a large stadium style light in the unused parking lot raises a lot of questions about its cost and necessity. Converting that lot into a park and green space for public use would have been more beneficial to the people since the lot was going to become unused for 6 months. If the proposed millage included plans for a park area in the empty courthouse lawn, plant some ornamental shade trees and include some amenities like public tables, barbecue grills, and a pavilion, perhaps a pickleball court, I would reconsider my stance. If the people are paying a tax, they deserve a service or amenity they can use. For the amount of time I spend on the courthouse or county jail, I would be fine without heat or air conditioning. Well, that's him. Anyway, thank you for your attention and consideration. And I would like to add about the controller's comments that used to be made as part of, and it really got to be a positive thing that she had written them down, getting this ahead of time. But we have the ability, and I'd like to talk about it in the next meeting, of adoption of amendment to the board rules. Point 14 in our board rules says, these rules having been adopted by not less than a majority of all members of the Roscommon County Board of Commissioners elected and serving may be amended or rescinded by a majority vote of all the commissioners elected and serving. That's what I'd like to do. I'd like to amend our board rules at this time, not wait until the yearly meeting. And by this time, I mean in our next meeting or the meeting thereafter, to include having the report verbally read as one of the constituents, and as I know Mr. Millwood agrees. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Milburn?
Just for the record, I didn't ask Mr. Medina to write a letter of support for or against me. Matter of fact, I don't even know if I've ever met Mr. Medina or had a conversation with him, but if I did, I don't remember. Just wanted to go out there. Next meeting, the chairman's allowing the special privilege to recognize Mr. Ed Nellis with a flag that will present for his service to our nation, our state, and our county. That'll happen, I guess, right around 10:05 with the chairman's permission. Thank you, Madam Chair. And I've asked Mr. Schneider to be here too, he served with Mr. Nellis. Thank you so much.
I would also like to add, this email just appeared in our mailboxes. I did not ask for it. I know Tony, but I haven't asked him for anything. It just kind of like, I think we're hearing this from some of our other constituents, the same things along the same lines. I think we really need to really strongly consider, going back to the old way we did things.
Commissioner Russo? Met with our delegated authority, Chase, and Commissioner Wolfson regarding the update on the timeline for the Houghton Lake level control structure and when possible assessment role would be discussed with the board. I believe this has been scheduled for the June 12th meeting, and they would be presenting to the board. Okay. Do we have any public comment at this time? Yes.
Excuse me, Brenda Batchelder, just a couple things. I wanted to take this time to thank you for the discussion for the joint millage with the Roscommon County EDC and MSU Extension. I was hoping to see it as an action item today with a resolution, but I'm hopeful that it will be on the next work session. I know we have a tight timeline for submitting paperwork to be on the ballot. The other thing I'd like to mention is the regional tourism assessment. I know I sent this out, so many of you probably have seen it, but our first meeting will be May 1st. This was in partnership with MSU Extension. Tourism is our biggest industry here in Roscommon County, and MSU Extension provided this service. And it was the first time they've ever done a countywide tourism assessment. So in-person meeting open to the public on May 1st over at Markey Township Hall. I'll be glad to help you register for the event. We're going to have snacks and really hear the great things about Roscommon County. The following meetings will be virtual and will be geared to those individual communities that they visited. So just wanted to mention that, and I've got copies with me if you need more information.
Thank you. On up, Craig.
I didn't know them. We're careful. I was in such a hurry that I just wore my belt. I don't want to move.
That's a sight we don't want to see.
I don't want to move.
You kind of scare me, Craig. You kind of scare me.
Craig Cotter, Houghton Lake. You know, I always sit up here and before I do, I try to get things straight in my mind. But when I get here, they never come out that way. As First Amendment, freedom of speech, I can come up here and dabble on, talk about anything I want, and this board probably shouldn't even interrupt me. Michelle Stevenson, she's so professional that she said she was worried about her facial expressions. You know, when someone on the board, you know, maybe does something odd, that she would. She's like, you're doing it now. I was at the Houghton Lake Improvement Board meeting last week, and public comment. It's really important. It's important that we hear you as well. So you get to hear me, even if you don't want to. But I watched a citizen during public comment be humiliated by the chairman of the Houghton Lake Improvement Board. And police were there. And I tried to stop the gentleman from what he was doing. It was we just don't do these things in America. We do have amendments. He ridiculed this person. So I said, stop, you can't do that. But he went on. Because when I went to speak, I said, gee, don't you dare, interrupt me. I looked over at the policeman. I don't know if he had my back or if he had the chairman's back, but at least there was a policeman there, and I was glad he was. So anyway, as a citizen, or Chairman Censor, as a representative of our government, when we witness such an act, what can we do to correct this indiscretion? I don't know why, but when I get older, things like this truly bother me more than they ever did before. We're at a time right now in the United States and in the world where human rights, freedoms are being challenged every day. If we don't take care of business in our own backyard, anyway, this is what America is supposed to be like. Thank you for the time. Oh, and I did hear everyone better again today, except for Mr. Milburn.
I'll talk more closely to you, Craig.
I do have hearing aids, but I've been trying to wear them, but I don't hear any better with them. And I guess if there's a way to, and it is better today. I don't know if you did some improvements or not. I don't hear the echoing around.
I gotta do with what Rex does. He puts it real close.
Thank you. I do want to hear what you say. You know, a lot of times, some people I don't even care what I hear about. That's why I would never wear them to the Houghton Lake Improvement Board meeting.
I got nowhere to go with that.
Now, there's an ordinance of having more than 3 Democrats in the room, county commissioners on. Maybe an ordinance.
Any other public comment? Okay. Zoom.
We have Julie Darton.
Okay.
Hello again. Thank you for this opportunity to address you. Sorry. My video was stopped, so I didn't know how to restart that. Thank you so much. I just wanted to mention, Commissioner Censor mentioned some information about education regarding Houghton Lake and invasive species. I can connect that organization with our aquatic invasive species prevention educator who works statewide and does a number of activities to, help communities prevent the spread of aquatic invasive species that can really have a negative impact on our inland waterways and even the Great Lakes. Educating boaters and fishermen about the potential to spread aquatic invasive species. I was so glad to hear Brenda, mention the partnership that we've had with the Economic Development Committee or Council. Sorry, corporation. I'm never sure what the C is. I apologize. To do the tourism assessment for Roscommon County. That was something that was approved in 2022. And so it has taken some time for that assessment to be completed, but we are committed to providing that information, just as we are with all the information that we produce through the universities. And coming as I am from Fargo, North Dakota, I'm here with land grant colleges from all over the Midwest, and we are similarly united in the research that creates knowledge for our communities, the teaching that helps people to understand that information, and then the outreach through extension services that allows people to understand the application of that information. And so I echo Brenda's sentiment that, whether you decide that the millage question we've proposed for voters is best suited for August or November, just having us, know where we stand relative to that question will be helpful. We have a job to do to talk to voters and share information about the way we positively impact the community in Roscommon County. And we really appreciate the opportunity to do that. I want to invite any of the commissioners or any of the members of the public to reach out to me if you have questions about our programs, the information we provide, the education we try to extend into communities, and the ways in which we work to support youth, families, adults, businesses, and the entire community. And thank you so much for your service. I'll also take this opportunity today. It is Administrative Professionals Day, and I wanted to offer, I know that Julie Nordquist is, nearing the end of her service with Roscommon County, but just to extend a specific appreciation for all the work that she does and all the work of other administrative professionals across Roscommon County government for the work that they do. I've had the opportunity to thank my staff, and part of our proposed millage is that we will be able to bring back someone who can support our office and be that administrative professional for our extension staff in Roscommon County. So just on behalf of all of us, thank you for the work that you do to make county government work for and for the people that work in government, as well as the people who are served by those governments. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Yes.
Not really as public as your administrator controller. Just one quick piece of news for you that was brought to my attention right before the beginning of the meeting. We just found out that our 34th Circuit Court Sobriety Court, which has been grant funded through the state of Michigan and not eligible to receive federal funding, has finished and received final certification. So they will now be eligible to get both state and federal funding. So I wanted to share some great news for you. So.
Awesome. It is. Yes.
I'll make it quick. So as most people may know, yesterday was the filing deadline for the August primary election. And so I'm still in the process of compiling all of the filings into the qualified voter file. I have most of them in, but however, there was filings that were being sent over from the townships throughout the end of the day, since the filing deadline was at 4:00. And I think this is probably the most filings I've ever seen in my time in 12 years of doing this. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting ballot come August. And I should have a complete unofficial list by next Tuesday, since the township clerks do have until Monday, the 29th to forward me all of their filings. And I would like to thank you for adopting the resolution recognizing our municipal clerks. They definitely have done a lot over the last in their time in office, and they've got a lot of work ahead of them. as well. So that's all. Thank you.
With no further public comment, I'd like to adjourn this meeting. All in favor, say aye. We do have a budget and finance meeting, and we can start that at 11:50.
I can even go to the bathroom.
Committee of the whole for April 24th, 2024 at 11:54 a.m. Commissioner Milburn?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Milburn.
Here.
Ostergren.
Here.
Russo.
Here.
Wolfson.
Here.
Here. Approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Madam Chair.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Wolfson.
Yes.
Ostergren.
Yes.
Censor.
Yes.
Russo.
Yes.
Milburn.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Public comment. Agenda items only. Is there any public comment? New business. Roscommon County 2023 year-end estimate.
Don't worry, Andy, this isn't the PowerPoint yet. That's 2024, but, okay. So I handed out 2 sheets to you, which just kind of summarize year-end 2023. We had roughly $550,000 in adjustments, accruals from 2024 that should have been 2023 expenses. So once that process goes through and I process those out, then I can figure out a little bit better about where we're at on the balance sheets and where we could anticipate the general fund balance being. This is kind of my best guesstimate based on those accruals being backed up. One of the things that I do not do is I do not search for revenues that can be accrued back. They will do that throughout that process for us. So there's always that contention for me to not be 100% accurate. And the other portion of that is if I missed in my stack of 3.5 months of bills, a larger sum of money or a bill, that will also change then obviously what the fund balance percentages may be. So we started January 1st, 2023 with a fund balance of $1,197,849.09, which put us, based on the 2023 budget, that had us based at roughly 11.5% for our fund balance. Our total revenues and expenditures for the general fund ending on December 31st of 2023, total revenues was $11,063,929.36. Final expenditures were $10,912,388.38. So that leaves us with a projected ending fund balance of approximately $1,349,390.07. Comparing that to what our actual expenditures were for 2023 puts us right at a 12.37%. What I added in there for you is a goal of a 15% fund balance. We would have needed the $1,636,858.26 number. So we're actually short $287,468.19. We went up, but we didn't quite hit 15% yet. So that being said, I also wanted to give you an idea of where our other funds, our special funds sit. Several of these do not carry a fund balance, or if they carry a fund balance, it's not one that is something that we can utilize to offset any type of costs. Hence the NAs next to those. The Warehouser Cleanup Fund is specifically that CD that Rebecca presented on at the work session. That is the $305,000 CD that we must carry around. You'll see the total has $76.90 on top of that. That's the interest we got off of it. to give you an idea last year. So the road commission fund, which is simply the pass-through fund for us serving as the fiscal agent for the road commission, has roughly a 32.85% fund balance. The special road millage fund, which should not carry a large fund balance. Ideally, they will zero it out, minus the fact that Rebecca does need to make sure that there is funds left in there in case there is a tax repayment that needs to happen through tax tribunals, has a 4.28% fund balance to it. Our sheriff road patrol fund is carrying a 34.07% fund balance. The animal control program fund is at 32.84% for a fund balance. Friend of the court fund, 12.2% fund balance. Landfill, which is traditionally, we transfer money into the landfill. Well, we do transfer money into the landfill every year to actually run the leachate disposal pumping systems that we're required to do by the state. The 3,034.64 is roughly 18.97%. Our E911 Central Dispatch Fund, they have $1.2 million that is actually set aside for capital improvements, which equals about 59.57% of their expenses. So their actual fund balance is 45.86%. The law library fund, we transfer all the money in there minus the 2,500 that we get through statute from Rebecca's office. They have an estimated 2.43% fund balance, just about $600 left in there. Under sheriff, you missed it. Your estimated fund balance for road patrol is 34.07% at the end of 23. So, okay. Child care fund has a small fund balance, 3.69%. This is the one that always changes. We do our best to make sure that we have all of the billings turned into us accounted for, and they double checked for me this year, so hopefully it's pretty close. Our spongy moth fund at 35.47%. So basically we were starting 2024 before millage collections with 85,873.53. Veterans Affairs has a 41.04%. They're actively working to do a spend down on that instead of trying to increase the millage, just so you are aware. In my sheet, it's on bright red, but since I don't print in color well, on your sheet, it's grayed out. So our airport fund actually currently has a negative fund balance. So I can't leave that like that. We can't legally leave that like that. So I am going to have to appropriate an additional 4,500, and I'll get to why that's even a bigger issue in just a second. So they are in a negative 2.24%. And then the inmate commissary fund, which we really don't have, we have charge and control of, but we can't utilize it for anything except for inmates care concern and jail improvements, has 308,861.01 in it currently. Those are the anticipated fund balances. So the next portion that I have provided to you is just a really quick sheet to show you some of the year-end transfers that happened. So transfers into the general fund, into our 101 fund, from the tax payment fund for the special assessment districts that were over and above what you had budgeted for the lake level control structures, 321,107.81. That will then, as you see in the notes, that are all included for reimbursement through the SAD. So then that would be repaid to the tax payment fund upon those collections. Take a note, Rebecca. The counseling fund, which is specific to the courts, we do have 3,750 that was transferred into our family court for those services. Tax payment fund transfer in for the 2022 early retiree buyout. We had final payouts of 3 retirees of 19,472.80. A couple of them were prorated based on when they turned their paperwork in, which is why the number is a little odd. Special projects for maintenance, tax payment fund transfer in of 119,824. That was heating, cooling improvements, and then our server replacement that we had to have done that was unexpected and not planned for. And then Michelle's clerk and register of deeds office has roughly 10% of the wages transferred in from the automation and CPL funds for $15,756.60 this year. Few of our year-end general fund allocations. The child care fund, we had initially budgeted $667,749 to send to the child care fund. We actually are ending up at $570,000, so we are under on that. The friend of the court initial budget was for $124,404, and we are appropriating $120,000. The law library is higher. We knew this was going to happen. The initial budget was $21,000 and the appropriation will be $32,500. So the airport. Initially, the budget for the airport was $6,194. We have already transferred in $26,500 to them. So roughly $20,000 more than initial. Plus we have an additional requirement to keep them out of the negative. And just to give you an idea, do you remember last year when we had to do those super letters to the state where we came up with a plan for the child care fund and law library of how we weren't going to be negative? So that's essentially why we have to make that whole, because we're going to have to do it one way or another. The problem was year-end gas purchases. Before gas spiked again, our airport manager made gas purchases. They had anticipated on receiving a $30,000 grant that would come in for finalized ARPA funds. Those ARPA funds have not been received yet. We've applied for it, we were approved for it, but we haven't received them. So there's no way to take that money and put it back into 2023 because it's already April and it's not here yet. So we will transfer another 500,000 over basically for that. So that's pretty much so where we stand. And all of those additional transfers are included in the actual estimate for the general fund balance for the year. He raised his hand. Yes, sir.
I have a question. Tax payment fund refund for SADs, 321-01-107-81, reimbursement through SAD.
Yes.
We've been talking a long time about the actual, first of all, is that the total for all three lakes?
That is the total for all three lakes, yes.
Okay. So we had been talking before, over the last year, about not hitting the people in the SADs only for the projects that we're gonna be going forward. In other words, not hitting them for setting the SADs up. Has that gone away?
I have no idea. That
You
is.
said that we could vote as a commission to.
Absolutely,
have
that's
that
always
done?
your decision. My understanding is that that is not what is being included in the special assessment cost analysis, but that hasn't been presented to the Board of Commissioners for final approval yet.
Okay, I just want to stay on top of that. I don't want us to forget that we had a lot of people in here complaining about that, and we made the promise to them that we were gonna look at paying for the development of the SADs through the tax fund. I just wanted to recall that, everybody to recall that happened. And in fact, it was something that you brought up, Ms. Control.
Yeah, that's absolutely something you guys are able to do.
Okay. When I looked at the journal entries for the end of the year transfers and everything, I was a little concerned. I said, I looked at what was taken out of the tax payment fund. There was 7,000 some odd dollars taken out for Laura McKillop's
Early
retirement.
retirees, yeah.
Mhm. But I thought that was going to come from what you didn't get for the ARPA.
No. That was Laura's wages to continue on. through January.
And then there was 12,000 taken out for Julie.
Early retiree.
And then there was 19,000 taken out to go into the ARPA fund because it was in the whole 15,000.
That was the special projects that was not supposed to have been charged out of the ARPA funds.
Well,
it was supposed to be taken out of the special project money that was allocated.
You're gonna have to explain that a little better to me. So the ARPA funds, because I've been looking at the ARPA funds since it went into the whole year ago.
Mhm.
And there was a mistake made, and I understand that people are human, they make mistakes. 2 checks were sent out for the same amount and the person sent it back. And because it was 136 in the hole, or 126, and then it went to 115 in the hole. And I looked at, and maybe I don't understand this.
You don't.
And that's the big thing. You guys voted on who gets the ARPA money, correct? Well, there's the committee. They give you a list of who's supposed to get the money, and then you all voted on who gets it, correct? And then those people get what you guys approved, correct? Okay. Well, I did a spreadsheet and I saw where 70,000 was supposed to go for juvenile detention and they got like 170,000.
And that was approved in 2022 by the board.
Okay.
As an additional allocation.
Okay, so when it was an additional allocation, did other people get less then?
No, because there was money left over in the ARPA specifically for the county and county projects.
So what was the 15,000 that put it in the hole?
115,000 were the 2 special projects that I mentioned earlier. We had the new server that went in, which was under special projects budgeted for under the MIS budget. And then we had the upgrades to heating and cooling systems. And that was the other special project that was in there. Those bills got coded to ARPA. So I had to take, you'll see where it goes in, out, in, and then back in.
Yeah, I saw.
So, yeah, so I had to
coming
reverse
out
those
of-
back out and then have money transferred in from the tax payment fund for
So
those.
when you did the report to the feds, that wasn't part of it?
No, that is not part of it, correct. Yeah.
So, because I saw let's see, it was almost $140,000 out of the tax payment fund to, I don't want to say shore up, but fill in the holes where we were negative. And I just wondered if you guys were aware of that. Okay, so those are 2 special projects that weren't supposed to be coded.
Correct.
And then so did the 5,000 you were supposed to get go to Laura?
It is in the budget, yes. That is also a part of the 101.
And see, I thought the tax payment fund, when it gets dipped into, you guys are aware of it and I'm aware of it. That was my understanding.
You should have been aware of it because it's all been voted on by the Board of Commissioners.
And you guys were aware of the $140,000 that were going out.
That would have been a previous.
That would have been the board from 2022.
2 board members here.
That is 2022.
I don't remember any of it.
You what?
I don't remember any of it, so it had to be the previous
It was the
board.
2022 board. The budget for 2023 is set by the 2022 board. Rebecca, are you accusing me of something in a public meeting?
No, Jody, that's why
I mean,
waited to, I did talk to you when it was 126 in the hole. And you explained to me there was.
I did,
a
and I
check
told you
was
then that
done-
there were
Just a moment,
incorrect
please.
absences that came
You asked
out.
me a question and I'm trying to answer it. You told me there was a check that had gone out twice and the person sent it back. I don't ever remember anything about 2 special projects.
I told you that there were bills that were taken out of there for maintenance.
I do remember that. I do
Yes.
remember you saying
And
there
that's
were bills
exactly
that
what
were being
those were.
taken out of it. I just look at the tax payment fund and I oversee it. And when I see that amount coming out and then I'm being asked for the SAD projects to come out, I'm just trying to make sure, Jody, that there's going to be enough in there for me to pay off next year's or this year's taxes. That's all I'm doing.
And this is why I know that you and Chase have discussed having the special assessment district projects being funded through the tax payment fund, but this board has not made that decision yet.
You have something, just,
Thank you.
so don't
Yeah.
think that I'm trying to accuse you.
No,
I'm trying to.
what I will tell you is it really sounds that way. And every single one of these projects and assessments was approved by the board in 2022 for the 2023 budget. The retirees were approved. The special projects were approved based on the information you provided to the board on what you needed and how much could be utilized for a special project. So all of those things have been in there. If there's a different way you'd like me to communicate when I make these changes, I would be happy to.
Okay.
I just
And-
wish you would ask me in a more professional setting on a one-on-one basis.
Well, I did, and as this came up, I thought, oh, I'm just gonna ask this now.
However, I agree with you on protecting the tax payment fund. The entitled purpose of the tax payment fund is to make all of the townships, entities that have millages and tax collections whole. And that is one of the main purposes of the treasurer's position. So it is an individual, if that is not there, not only is it very bad on all of us and all of the Board of Commissioners, but it's bad on the treasurer's office to be put in a position to be bonded. So.
And I have to admit, there are some meetings that I miss because I'm up to here in
Because you're
work.
busy.
Yes.
Amen.
And that's why I wanted to know, did you guys know about this? And is this how this goes down? You guys vote on it? And because I do remember specifically that when Laura was going to be staying extra, that you were going to give. I thought it was the
Yes, I did not
2023.
receive a dime after that.
I thought it was 2023 monies though.
It is ARPA money, but the 2023, so if you look at the actual 2023 budget, and you look at her offset, there is X amount that's in there for wages, office, those, and that's all the money that is still sitting in ARPA. But I'm waiting for the audit, and then I'm gonna let him transfer that over.
So your money that you were gonna get went in there plus the 7,000 from the tax payment fund to make enough to keep
Yes,
her till.
the 7,000 for the tax payment fund is completely different from that. That is the retiree buyout program that the board in 2022 put forth. That is what that is. That has nothing to do with her staying on until April. Except for she happened to be a retiree that qualified for it.
And so that was the same thing with
Julie McKindle's, yes.
Great, thank you. Appreciate that.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I have some questions.
okay.
Is this reflecting that some departments were out of budget in their spending?
Yes, specifically the airport.
And what's the procedure when that happens?
So that's where I need you guys to tell me exactly how you would like to proceed. The airport has an advisory board. My airport manager, our airport manager is aware of what his budget is. But I've never been given any type of permission from the board to take any type of corrective actions for that.
So we have no policy on what that, when that happens?
Not exactly, no.
I think we need to draft a policy for that.
Okay.
Because is it not the law library over budget too in this case?
Yes.
I think we're gonna have to get some kind of policy going on how it's handled when a department's going over budget.
I mean, essentially, you would be authorizing me to tell them they cannot expend anymore until such time that.
Oh, well, yeah, whatever we decide, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe in a later weight. My next question is, on road patrol, that's a millage. They got their own money for that, correct?
Yes, they do.
But we're down deputies. So where's that extra money go? I'm just asking.
No, so there's no lack of coverage for the county. It is overtime. So you've got deputies picking up 2 additional shifts, so they get a regular time plus an overtime.
Understand that. Simple answer.
They would love to have more deputies, I believe. I know you are.
You're off time.
Darlene volunteer. I'll run the car. I'll drive her around.
No.
Get you on camera, get you on the cop show.
Yeah. No.
We start off at Greens and at the Nottingham.
Oh. Okay. Any other questions on this stuff for Jody?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Rex.
In light of that, I think we ought to put 2 members at task of coming up with a policy about this overspending budgets.
I think it would then be whoever's on budget and finance.
Yeah.
I picked David and Eric.
Me?
All I gotta do is Google some other ones.
You shouldn't be spending that money. I thought they had to come before the board before they overspent.
There's no actual policy
Oh, okay.
for it.
You can make it that way, you two can.
So,
Let me ask you this. This is just the first quarter, right?
this is all for 2023. We're not even to 2024. 2023 was all what the 2022.
We're for 2024 or 2023 by $5,000.
And some can't be helped. I'm sorry.
Yes.
He's right.
Hey, Mike.
There are things that are gonna come up from time to time that have to be over budgeted. I think it's good to have a policy, but at the end of the day, even with a policy, there are gonna be some exceptions from time to time that just occur. I mean, you like your own financial, but you drive down the road, you have a flat tire, and you got $40 in your wallet, and you go, well, I gotta run to the bank, but I only got $40 now, I gotta use a credit card. Maybe not a good analogy, but the bottom line is, there are gonna be things, airports never make money. And Eric's been, I've been on this board, it's like Dave, and Jody can tell you, you never make money, but they're a necessary expense for the county.
I think the policy is more just as, I guess the way I look at it is if they are going over budget, not to continuously allow expenditure after expenditure to get too far over budget. So if they get there, come and we got to figure out where that additional money is going to come from.
You need to
Is
come up
all.
with a plan on to get back to budget.
With another policy, but you can policy yourself to death too.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
this is just not about the airport.
No, I
We need
understand
a
that.
policy in place for this and how we proceed when it happens.
The policy usually is Jody says no. She's been her policy. She recommends to the board that. Again, if a policy is in place to be able to protect Jody and the commissioners, I'm fine with that too.
It's not protecting me, but you're giving me,
There you go.
The direction.
yes, you've got to make some sort of legislative decision that gives me a tool to respond to it properly.
And the protection, I didn't mean protect.
Even if it's something like, hey, you've only got $4,000 left in September in the law library, and they need to come up with a plan of action to be submitted to be looked at by this board for approval, and we can say, okay, because it's got to come out of the general fund. There's no other place for it to come to when the special funds go over.
Let me strike the word protection and use the word guidance. That'd be a more appropriate word. Guide the county controller, an objective.
How's this been handled in the past? How do other counties handle it? And what would you recommend?
Policy.
Paper cuts, just little paper cuts with lemon juice. Wait, that's corporal. That's not allowed, is it, Ben? Okay. So I would like to think that when we notice, for the month that they are at X amount of, their expenditures for the year and they're running over, because you're really going to get to the end of the summer where you have a good idea of where they are. That any expenditures that are not directly related to payroll expenses, because we can budget those off, have to come to my office prior to, so that I can then, I've got to tell you guys when I get a $20,000, when there's a $20,000 bill that's going to come through for fuel purchase, because it's low, we need to know about that, not after the bill's already been committed, because I think Rebecca and Michelle will agree with me that trying to tell a vendor that the county's not gonna pay them $20,000 for a fuel purchase, once we already have the fuel, or once we've already put the air conditioning unit in for, you know, the 911 center, what are you gonna do at that point? So.
Should the policy be something like, if they're over budget by $1,000, $10,000, $3, what should be that limitation where it starts, you know, getting?
I think it should be looked at as, like she said, as you get closer. That's one of the purposes of having like these meetings.
Dollars prior to going over budget.
Yeah, something, a percentage prior to going over.
Trending 15% higher for 6 months, or, you know, something like
Percentage, that's
that.
even better.
And I think the percentage is the
Yeah.
key, because
Yeah.
if you do 1,000, you look at a budget with
Right,
$200,
it's a percentage.
percentage is important.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I might suggest that the people that are gonna work on the policy, once they come up with something, work with Jody, because it has to be something that is workable.
Yeah.
And
Flexible.
something that can be implemented, and Jody would have the information on that. You know, it has, whatever you come up with has to work. I mean,
Well, Jody works with the finances all the time, so she's gonna have a much better idea on how to draft it. Not that she needs any more work to do.
Somebody has a policy.
It's gotta be flexible, but it's gotta be substantive. You can't just throw something out there.
Right.
And kind of like, it's gotta be concrete, but flexible. I'm not sure how to, the verbiage for that, but it's gotta have some flexibility, but it has to be substantive, so it gives the control.
And that's what it is that's missing, because I mean, in general, the statute says, up, you can't spend any more money
Right.
if it's not appropriated to you, but if you don't know what's spent until after it's spent, that's a problem.
Yeah.
What's for 2023?
Oh, I have one last question, I'm sorry. How has this been handled before when we've been over? Because this is the first time that I had the experience of going through this.
Okay, so I can give you an example. We had a totally different fund other than the airport that had expended severely over their budget. They did have a fund balance to go into, but the fund balance was actually supposed to sustain and offset the millage for several more years. And I brought it to the commissioners at that time, and I got shrugs.
You got what?
Shrugs. So I've never had
Well, what does that
a
mean?
bat. I've got a, oh, well, that's,
They had to do something about it. I mean, it had to be, something had to be done. They had to pay it out of the general fund or something.
Probably move funds.
yeah, you move funds, but the problem is we need to stop that before it happens. You know what I mean? Like, there's gotta be some meat to the policy, so.
But I mean, if it was budgeted for in other areas and you took it out of the general
That's
fund.
why they do amended.
Traditionally, that's your fund balance, then now your general fund balance goes down.
You took it out of the,
It comes out of the fund balance.
See that fund balance?
not the tax payment.
Yeah,
fund,
so
the
an
fund
unbudgeted,
balance.
yeah,
Yeah.
your savings account, it came out of our savings, that's not budgeted for.
Like the general fund right now, the 12.37% that we have over,
Right, that's the thing that we.
that's where it gets dipped into. So instead of being at, whatever you were,
Yeah, we designed and passed all those resolutions.
right, then you have to dip into that because
12.37, you said? So what is that?
estimated, yeah.
So how much is $5,000 going to affect that?
Barely, with the amount of money. Correct.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be minimal. Basically, $100,000 is a percentage.
Madam
Okay,
Chair,
so what we're really talking about here is we're gonna slap somebody on the wrist and say, hey, you gotta start.
And that's traditionally what's happened.
What's that?
That's traditionally what happens. It'd just be nice to be able to have something to say, hey,
Before
you're
time, know about,
Yes, sir.
know about it before it happens.
Correct.
and be able to have the board support to say, I'm sorry, but your expenditures at this point have to be, I mean, essentially you're cutting somebody off.
Yeah.
Yes, to this amount.
Other questions? Are we on to B?
And Dave and I are gonna handle that, right? Okay, with you.
Roscommon County 2024 budget review.
Now, Andy.
Oh, good Lord, and I got bifold.
I have a black and white copy of the rest, and Sterling got the colored one because they're the vice chair. Eric, I emailed you one so you can pull it up on your computer if you want.
My computer's up. Oh. I got it plugged in.
Mine shut off too at some point and then turned back on.
Thank you. No, we're fine.
They're bigger than last time. Andy says I'm not allowed to print in all these colors. This would actually be as of April 22nd, 2024. Same thing for you to look at as I presented before. Wilson liked it in a summary, he said, so I'll stick with it. My goal is to do better. I'll sidetrack. So overall, we're looking at being at about 33.3% of our budget here going through. So our fund revenues to date, kind of hit or miss on where you see. You'll see a couple that will be at 100%. Sheriff Road Patrol millage is at, I'm sorry, Special Road and Sheriff Road Patrol millage are high. You also have Central Dispatch, and you have like Commission on Aging, Bungee Moth, Veterans Affairs, Animal Control. Those are all winter tax collection. So that's what's been happening in your treasurer's office. That's what's been made whole at the end of March by the tax payment fund, so that we have those numbers up. And so that's their main sources of income have come in since they are millage-based revenue. The general fund still sits pretty low. We are really, when you look at it, we're just at the beginning of our tax collection. They'll get busy again here shortly after that. The courts traditionally for the general fund, you don't see any kind of uptick in collections about this time of the year as they start. And some of the other monies that come in more closely. The other ones that will look low to you are going to be ones that we appropriate to. So I will not look at the appropriation end of April, so I can have a better idea of, I don't transfer, try not to transfer smaller funds, all $20,000 at once if they don't need it, if they have to get through those numbers. Graph for you to look at so you can see where the majority of the revenues collected are that come in. Obviously, the general fund is your largest. Fund expenses to date, everybody is actually doing really well. The one that looks high that really isn't high is the Commission on Aging. That is a flow through that Rebecca then provides that funding to them once we've collected on their. That one is excessively high. We have some that you haven't done anything yet. Special Road millage. They haven't started the special road projects yet, so there's been no funding that's on that. Counseling services, that we traditionally won't use that until you see something out to be transferred to regular courts. Landfill, we haven't started any of the pumping yet. We don't do that until May. So they don't get any of our money yet. Correction training fund. They have not had any expenses out because they don't have a lot of money collected so far this year from that statutory amount of billing. From jail, the jails next year. Revolving loan fund program, they haven't had any applications for that yet. The other ones that you see are just the same thing. Special millage is full millage. Those are both ones that the money will be rolled over from those special. Same trend under expenses. The biggest expenses come under the general fund. Payroll costs to date for 2024. Everybody is actually really good, even the road patrol. But a lot of their major overtime doesn't come for another month. So you'll see May, June, July, they'll go up a little bit. We also, don't have all the longevities out yet. They have a lot of hires that came in right before the summer, so those in year-end hires. Overall, I think that everybody's doing. Central dispatch is lower than expected. They are working with 5 individuals right now working overtime. So that is why you see kind of a short there. They're another group where staffing in general has historically for dispatchers been really hard to hear them with keeping them. Not quite the job everybody thought it was going to be. Meant for the sheriff road patrol, I think right now a lot of that is law enforcement is not the illustrious career that I thought it was 20 years ago. So it's finding the right people that are the right fit altogether. Yeah, and it's always the general fund. Sheriff road patrol, general fund, sheriff road patrol, and central dispatch are your your largest payroll costs. They're also going to be your largest benefit costs that come along with that. Obviously, your road patrol and 911, a lot of, especially general fund, it's people. If you look at our jail budget, it's 80% of the costs are having people there to. So that's a lot of what you see in the. Wow. So with the benefit costs, looking at where we are today, we are still trending below. So knock on wood that continues. Again, if you hire somebody in as benefit package A, and we hire somebody in that needs a full family benefit package, you're going to see that cost increase based on how the trends of who we hire and bring in. Additionally, we try to budget with knowing that we're going to have an opening. We try to budget with a full family. And then if you hire somebody that only has 2 people, yay, that works out in our favor. So that way we're not caught by surprise. 2024 benefit expenses to date just gives you the same 911, sheriff road patrol, and of course the general. Our retirement costs to date actually look really good. One of those areas, the sheriff road patrol. A lot of that is because you just don't have people when you're lower, so that's a slight benefit. It's a lot of a benefit, but that is helpful. General fund, as we're high as people have retired, we are bringing in that are under the defined and not the defined benefit. And our collection this year to date for defined benefit is basically based on that MERS actuarial that got presented last year. So that changes every year. So we may get hit for some of the retirees next year and you'll see that go up. But right now it's holding. I love the graph. It looks the same every single time you get the benefit. General fund, sheriff, and a little bit of 911. So overall, our general fund department expenses, there are a few outliers in here. Some of them I think are self-explanatory, like election. Obviously, Michelle's office has purchased equipment. There is a grant that she will receive from the state. Actual expenses offset as well, but that's one of the reasons that one's trending definitely 9,500.
We're gonna send her a warning letter?
We are gonna send her a warning letter. The good news. She's waiting for the other governments to send them back to us, and that always tends to be one of the hardest parts of that. On the second page, the Drain Commissioner's office is a little bit high, but that is that BSNA payment that's already been paid out for the processes. The other one that, as you look, it says 879%. This is the debt service control. This is the process that I know Rebecca can probably explain a little bit more of exactly what happened, but essentially we had to reimburse money to PACC for their taxes. Yeah. Yes.
Went to tax tribunal.
Yeah.
And we had to that from all the entities.
Yes, so that's our repayment to KCC. That's why that is so high this year, and it's never that high.
Quick question on the drain commissioner.
Yes.
The increased fees, have those gone into effect yet for the people that are not? Or is that soil erosion? I can't remember.
That's soil erosion.
Yeah, both of them. Are
But
they-
yes, so Chase has already put those into effect
Okay.
for collections.
Sorry, I get
No,
both of
that's
them mixed
okay.
up. It's the same person, you know?
It seems like it should all go together. The other one, huh? Ran for commissioner. Oh, here we go. Okay, the other one that is high is the unemployment insurance. So when the Roscommon County Juvenile Detention Facility was closed in 2022, we ended up with a lot of, a lot of people who did not seek employment or were unsuccessful. That's not fair. Unsuccessful in locating replacement employment. And that is the total cost of that, about 10,000 of that is unemployment insurance. That is kind of the traditional cost, but the rest of it belongs specifically to closing the juvenile detention center. So we pay for unemployment, we actually pay a year behind. So what you see being paid out of 2024's budget is for what people received in 2023. So. Yes, we are. We are self-funded.
Sorry. In fairness to the folks that were unemployed, that is a specialized career path and it's really
Yes, it
difficult.
is.
I want to share that with everybody.
Yeah.
I'd like to know too, that even though it's a large percentage, it's only $10,000. So that's, I mean, it's not a huge amount.
And that's the thing, a lot of times you look at like the percentage and you're like, oh my gosh, and then you realize the number's a lot smaller, So total general fund department expenditures are at 23,000 or 23.89%. Where traditionally we'd be looking at 33.3%. This is normal for the county. I know Mark and David are more familiar with that, but this is a normal trend for this. Yep, but it is early. And I will say that often to people, it is still early.
You said that it is normally higher in the 33% range?
Traditionally, you're gonna be more like a 30%.
So that's a good sign then.
It is a good sign.
Moving forward.
It is a
It's
good
just kind of
sign.
like
Knock on wood that
the Northern
everything's
Lakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like the Northern Lakes things are right now in the first quarter. So.
That's bad.
Yeah.
We traditionally stay under for the first 2 quarters. And then you'll see as the summer comes and we get busier, you'll see expenses rise with that as well. And we'll have more collections as they go through. So.
When do we usually see that break even, in the middle of the year, towards the fall, or the end of the year?
When are you done with summer tax collections? When does that? Okay. Winter tax collections. Okay, well, because I'm looking at when we get the money that comes in for taxes for the general fund. That's normally about, yes. Okay.
And in January, move all those from 401 for
Taxes. Okay.
Do tax collections, being as they're off and we got to get them, does that have anything to do with this as far as percentages, or we've already got the budgeted for the tax
No.
collections already?
Well, we're budgeted for the tax collections. I mean, that's based off of the information that,
You collect 100% of the taxes.
yes,
Okay.
I traditionally, And when the auditor comes in, they move things around a little bit. But traditionally, we're just either slightly under at like 99% or slightly over at like 101%. And a lot of that can depend on the make whole and who owes us money from years before. So you'll see when they go through and they do our audit, you'll see where they take our tax collection line item of current taxes and they'll break that down into this was 2022's taxes you collected, not based on 2020.
I hope it's understandable why I'm asking that question, because
It does.
if we're not gonna have the money coming in, and this is budgeted on all the money coming in, then we're in a really big jam if we don't have really good collections.
Well,
over
and
the
that is
long
another, so we actually have, so like right now for our current taxes for the general fund for 2024, we have collected about 8% of what the township will send bills out, then the money comes in and gets sent. Rebecca's always moving in her office with money that gets sent to us basically for those tax collections. But what shores us up as far as a cash balance is the tax payment fund. Oh, there's another important feature.
Jody.
Hence Rebecca's protecting this.
Normally, it's like the third quarter when we know where we're really at.
Yeah, I mean, normally about halfway through the year is when we start the budgeting process. So we have some estimates of where we are, but yeah, you're normally about mid third quarter. You're probably end of September when we really have an idea of, yeah. You're looking at, don't look at me. Because at that point you're looking at all those busy summer months being over with. So.
This TMI.
Like it, Commissioner Russo?
You don't want to hear what I told
Share with her. Come on. You're not supposed to be talking amongst each other.
Oh. Benjamin.
What is the debt service?
You did miss it. What were you doing? Ask. The debt service is where Rebecca has to pay people back for tax, like when you overpay. So the reason it's over is we owed Kirtland money.
That's the
Kirtland won. So tax tribunal reversals, all those wonderful things.
I have one more question too.
Yes.
Okay. The recent law change where we have to pay people back or when we sell their property in foreclosure and it's more than the amount that they owe, we're having to pay people back that difference.
Yeah.
What is going on with that?
So that actually is going to be a better Rebecca question. But the best of where I'm at with it right now is you are still in that process of trying to determine how much, who, is it a class action? Nope, they decided it wasn't a class action. So that's been done. Treasurers can't be held personally liable. That was decided as well. But they're to the point now where they're trying to decide how far back that will stretch. Will it just be that year since it's been filed, or will we have to go back 3 years or 5 years? How far back you'll have to be reimbursing. And
then we'll know the amount when we find out how many. So it's still in court.
Yeah. So what Rebecca has done is she has planned for a worst case scenario. And that's where we're looking at about $2 million out of the tax payment fund. So out of the current balance of the tax payment fund that would need to be submitted.
It's going to bankrupt some of these counties.
Yes, yes, it will. They didn't have a choice. It was statutory.
Oklahoma County. Yep.
Right. I agree with that 100%. The
Yes.
state made a bad law.
Yeah. When you're in the military and somebody tells you to charge a mountain and they're your lieutenant, you charge the mountain, whether you're going to get shot and die or not. So, because that's what you're statutorily supposed to do. So overall budget health, where we are right now for 2024, I just found an error. The millage collection is complete for winter. As Rebecca said, our general fund revenues are sitting at the 20.6%. The summer tax and real estate transactions, you'll see those revenues increase as summer comes on. Our end of April expenses are trending lower than the average 33.3, so we're happy with that. The law library is still slightly higher. But that is based on that initial January billing. So I'm going to keep an eye on that one. And I have talked to that office specifically. The payroll for all of our funds is below budget in all areas of an average of 17.7%. Again, your costs related to overtime will traditionally spike May through September. More people, more police, more courts, more 911 calls. Benefit costs were at 27.7%, and obviously we budget those based on our current employee enrollment choices, so they can fluctuate a little bit. The overall cost for our defined contribution and defined benefit retirement plans is looking really good, 13% below that budgeted cost. Oddly, the low staffing is helping us out in those areas, Benjamin. The next one is just, I'm leaving this one in there all year. This is just your overall general fund expenses based on the budget. So you can see under the general fund where most of that $10–11 million that you budgeted goes to. Obviously, you're looking at the money we sent to the childcare is going to be a large amount. Your corrections department is a larger sum of money. Some of the courts, central services, buildings and grounds, that's, buildings and ground in and of itself is about $640,000. That's for the entirety of that. Again, people cost money. So that kind of gives you an idea of where your general are. So the last thing is just a couple budget highlights for you guys to think about as we're moving forward. We have right now, and I sent you a message, I've sent it out to the department heads, that we are right now on May 1st, the collection of court costs for court services is sunsetting. And what that means to you is that this year in 2024, we have budgeted for $255,000 of court costs, which means if we don't have the ability, the courts do not have the ability to assess court costs. And that's just the cost of doing business, I guess. Just to give you an example, if I decide to go in for small claims and I get charged ABC for mailing, some of those court costs are included in those as well. So there could be things that, hey, yes, you owe collections plus you owe court costs. So those would not be collectible. And that would obviously shorten our revenues by roughly $200,000. Ideally, where that is at in the Senate and the House is they are waiting for 2 seats to be filled that are supposed to be filled like now in the Detroit area. They're assuming those will be Democrat nominations. Did they win? Okay, so those will be Democrats. So the idea is that the Democrats will come in and vote for these 2 bills that are tie-barred together. One of them takes the sunsetting and pushes it back out another year. And the other bill that it's tied to basically is saying that the state court association will begin the processes of figuring out how to make all of your local county courts state courts, which is a process that started 3 or 4 years ago and hasn't had a lot of traction. So I understand why they're doing it. Our jail is actually currently at budgeted revenues, which last year we got to about 68%. And they are roughly 5.3% below the budgeted expenditures. And then again, you have your problems with 911 and road control continuing to see an increase in that overtime usage due to hiring difficulties.
That all?
Yes. Any questions?
You guys are gonna miss me.
One question.
Yes.
I'm not, you're gonna be right there. Oh, I'm sorry. Know that.
Maybe.
2 minutes.
You guys tried that, remember?
Yeah, that didn't help. Is the commissioner's budget gonna be a little bit over budget now? Because we have 2 people sitting at one table per month?
But 2 people are sitting at one time. Oh yeah, that's gonna go over.
It ain't very much, is it?
Well, it's gonna go over
Or
a
are
little
we
bit on your
splitting
end
that?
and a little in mine. Yeah, and I will, so basically what we're looking at is we are going to have our retiree Julie will be training the new hire Joe, who will be starting next Monday that I emailed you about. And they're gonna be buddies at the booth for the next month so that they can spend some quality time together. So hopefully Joe will be able to pick up a little bit better. Julie picked on very quickly, but thank goodness she had been in government for a while. But yes, we will be paying 2 people. So
And can we have her introduced at the board meeting?
absolutely, that is my plan.
Oh, well, don't want to steal your thunder.
And oh, by the way, it's administrative professionals day, so don't forget to say something nice to Julie.
Yes, Rex, saying something nice.
Julie?
Yes.
Depends on how she treats me when I walk in.
Any other questions? We don't have any motions or resolutions. Any public comment? All in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Aye.
My shoe, shirt keeps on